Chapter 392. In the Zhuwu mirror, the key of the desolate god appeared. Fang Qingshan was sitting cross-legged, looking handsome. His eyes were deep and his aura was obscure. Above his head was a world tree with intertwining roots. Although it couldn't compare to the key of the desolate god, it was still as tall as a mountain. Ding-dang, ding-dang, ding-dang. The branches and leaves swayed. From time to time, golden flowers and silver flames fell from the sky and landed on the roots of the crouching dragon. They shook gently and disappeared. Whoosh! Instantly, the world tree grew, and the leaves that were as big as tables became even more verdant. They were like jade and glass, giving off an indescribable glow. In the Zhuwu mirror, the key of the desolate god, the world tree, 3 in 1. It was mysterious and wonderful. However, in the void, a series of faintly discernible imprints gathered from the layers of unknown space faults. These imprints were filled with boundless vitality, as if they were world trees. Each imprint carried a message. Thousands of imprints gathered into a river and flowed backward. Fang Qingshan had already experienced such situations a few times and had long since gained experience. The only problem was that this time, the feedback from the world tree was faster, stronger, more numerous, and more ferocious. However, this was only a blissful worry. Fang Qingshan's state of mind had long been immersed in an indescribable state. His aura rose into the sky like clouds. Thousands of lanterns lit up and golden light fell like pearls. Every action, every breath, heaven and earth favored him. The sun and the moon surrounded him. At the same time, Fang Qingshan's grotto heaven also appeared. Being one was the world god, the ruler of the grotto heaven. Tao begets one, one begets two, two is Taiji, Taiji begets yin and yang, yin and yang become two forms. Two begets three, three determines three talents, heaven, earth, man, sun, moon, and stars. There are also 4 elements, earth, wind, water, and fire. 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, 8 trigrams, 9 palaces, 10 directions. The Zhodian star shone brightly. It was like silk hanging down, stacking layer by layer. Crimson light, clear shadows, clusters of flames, thousands upon thousands of them, and they illuminated the sky with a type of glow. When the time comes, the heavens and earth will work together. Heaven's favor, great fortune. At that moment, Fang Qingshan was slowly dissecting the world tree's imprint and using it for his own use. In Fang Qingshan's grotto heaven, the various divine abilities, laws, and nascent divinities seemed to have been injected with adrenaline and were rapidly improving. Of course, the law of space improved the fastest. Just like how the key of the desolate god devoured the immortal world's essence chi, countless fragments of the laws of space formed in Fang Qingshan's grotto heaven. 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000, all the way up to 129,600. A complete law of space had finally taken shape. With a boom, the powers within Fang Qingshan's body swelled up. His paradise expanded furiously as well. At this moment, the law of space reached perfection. With one step, he reached the peak of the grotto heaven realm. 129,600 spatial fragments fused into one, forming a complete space law crystal. This space law crystal looked like a hexagonal gem. It represented the true essence of the 4 directions. The 4 directions are known as the universe, and since ancient times, as the universe. Since the law of space has reached perfection, then I shall break the shackles and advance to the time realm. Fang Qingshan felt the changes in his body. Normally, even if he didn't show it on the surface, he would still be happy. But at this moment, his heart was like a calm lake, because his mind was completely filled with the great Tao. The feedback from the world tree gathered endlessly, like a flood bursting through a dam. If it weren't for the all-heaven chessboard suppressing Fang Qingshan's body, his nascent divinity and grotto heaven wouldn't have been able to withstand the torment. Not to mention breaking through to the next realm and obtaining benefits. he would already be lucky not to suffer a backlash. Previously, Fang Qingshan seemed illusory and real. Although he was still in the same place, he seemed to have entered an unknown number of layers of space in a trance. But at this moment, although Fang Qingshan was standing in the present, he seemed to be in the ancient past and the distant future. The past was eternal and unchanging. The present was the only reality. The future was ever-changing. But layers of ripples appeared in his eyes, and runes splashed like waves. A power that was different from space, but not weaker than space, formed in the grotto heaven. It was long and seemingly formless. When it gathered, it formed the 4 seasons. When it dispersed, it formed the hours. It linked together from ancient times to the present and into the future. The past didn't change, but it was already blurred. The present was clear, but it was very singular. The future changed, but there were thousands of changes. When breaking through to the grotto heaven realm, Fang Qingshan had the Haotian treasure mirror, a spatial treasure, to help him. At this moment, when he broke through to the cosmic light realm, he didn't have a treasure like the Haotian treasure mirror, but he had the enlightenment of the world tree's feedback. It should be known that the world tree had connected the celestial realm and the black-yellow great world. Although it hadn't transformed into a human, in terms of cultivation, it wasn't inferior to a heavenly monarch. Otherwise, the primogenitor sage king of a celestial race wouldn't have needed to personally use a creation divine artifact to cut off the world tree. Such a spirit root was simply equivalent to a creation jade archive. The laws within it were all-encompassing. Although the most important was still the wood origin source, its understanding of time and space was also very deep. With the world tree's reverse nurturing of time laws, it wasn't any weaker than being imbued with wisdom. Therefore, as expected, the bottleneck of the grotto heaven realm was easily broken. The moment he broke through to the perfect grotto heaven realm, Fang Qingshan broke through to the cosmic light realm. With this advancement, his lifespan immediately took a qualitative leap. Not only did he make up for what he had lost earlier, but he also had more than enough. At the same time, he didn't even need to use the vast amount of 9-sun holy water in the Sky Lake. The vast amount of pure yang heavy water in the wild god, Qi, even disintegrated and flew into his body, starting to be converted into dermic power. This caused his strength to also increase. The power of 50 billion galloping horses. 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. What a guy. The moment Fang Qingshan's cultivation broke through, his strength instantly doubled, reaching the power of 100 billion galloping horses. Generally speaking, humans were favored by the heavens and earth. They were born with Tao bodies, and their cultivation speed was very fast. In just a few hundred years or 1,000 years, they could catch up to the other races' tens of thousands of years of accumulation. However, among those in the same realm, very few people could compare to those strange beasts. For example, the Kuan Peng and the Taodai only had the power of 30 billion galloping horses when they were at the grotto heaven realm. After breaking through to the cosmic light realm, they could reach the power of 80 billion galloping horses. However, the moment Fang Qingshan broke through, he greatly surpassed them. This was because of one's foundation. The more solid one's foundation was, the more profound it would be. Once one broke through, it would be a qualitative leap. Every step forward would be a whole new world. However, there were gains and losses. Correspondingly, the more solid one's foundation was, the more difficult it would be to break through, and the more resources it would consume. Chapter 393. After breaking through to the cosmic light realm, Fang Qingshan slightly stabilized his cultivation base and did not continue cultivating. Firstly, this was a dangerous place where people could come and disturb him at any time. It was not a safe place to cultivate in seclusion. Although the Wilderness God Palace controlled the core of the Tianwu treasury, the real core was still in the Tianwu Great Hall. Only by controlling the Zuwu mirror and refining the key of the Wilderness God could one be considered to have full control of the Tianwu treasury. After refining and devouring a part of the key of the Wilderness God, Fang Qingshan clearly sensed that Fang Han and Hua Tian had entered the Tianwu treasury. The auras of Venerable Ling Long, the Bodhisattva of the 10 earthly realms, the everlasting immortal furnace, and others were also nearby. Moreover, Fang Qingshan had just broken through to the Grotto Heaven realm not long ago. Now that he had broken through to the cosmic light realm, although it would not shake his foundation, it would require more effort to consolidate it. Therefore, Fang Qingshan resisted the temptation of breaking through to the cosmic light realm. He suppressed all the profundities of the world tree in the all-heavens chessboard. After stabilizing his cosmic light realm, he would find the right time and place to cultivate in seclusion. It would not be too late to break through then. When he opened his eyes, he saw a layer of crystal wall. This was the second layer of the key of the wilderness god. Although Fang Qingshan had devoured and refined the key of the wilderness god, he had only roughly refined the first layer. He had obtained some pure yang crystals. As for the second layer of the key of the wilderness god, unless he had comprehended the law of time and broken through to the cosmic light realm, he could only break through by force. The second layer was a place to store elixirs. The entire space was filled with a rich and intoxicating medicinal fragrance. Elixirs were divided into 4 types: heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. In the second layer, the worst elixirs were earth grade, like the Warlock Saint Relic. Heaven-grade elixirs, such as the Rare Nirvana Pill, 7 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill, 9 Revolutions Soul Return Pill, and Great Purity Jade Fluid Great Rejuvenation Pill were also piled up. They were stored in huge gourds. There were also many medicinal pills that even Fang Qingshan couldn't name, but they were all extremely precious. Of course, there were also immortal pills above heaven-tier pills, such as the 10 Hearts Heavenly King's Treasure Pill and the Endless Good Fortune Pill. There were also low-grade, mid-grade, high-grade, and even supreme-grade immortal pills. Good. Seeing this, not only Fang Qingshan, but even Xiong Qi couldn't help but feel excited. With this miraculous elixir, recovering the cultivation of a golden immortal would not be an empty dream. Sure enough, the Key of Desolation God was the most important item in the Tianwu treasury. All the 129,600 fey treasures outside, the various desolation gods and Tao artifacts in the real treasury added up couldn't compare to the Key of Desolation God. This wasn't just a matter of quality, it was also a matter of quantity. With all these immortal pills, even without the feedback from the World Tree, Fang Qingshan would be able to rest easy until he reached the World King realm. Moreover, this was only the second level. Thinking about it, Fang Qingshan shuddered, his whole body excited. Now that we have the Key of Desolation God, there is no need to compete for the treasures outside, lest we anger the public. Let's go. After calming down the excitement in his heart, Fang Qingshan put away the Key of Desolation God, and the Zuwu mirror turned into a stream of light and entered the clear sky treasure mirror, telling Xiong Qi to leave immediately. Unfortunately, although he wanted to keep the peace, sharing a piece of the pie with others didn't think so. Boom! Just as the ancestral sorcerer mirror disappeared and Xiong Qi revealed his true form, several attacks were launched at the Tianwu treasury. Mountains crumbled and seas roared. The sky crumbled and the earth cracked. The entire Tianwu treasury shook violently as if it couldn't bear the pressure and was on the verge of collapsing. When I obtain immortality, all living beings in the billions of worlds will enter the world of immortals. Time will flow like water, and the dead will pass away. When I obtain immortality, all time and space, past and future, all the stars will shatter into dust. All living beings will obtain immortality as long as they think of my name. When I obtain immortality, all living beings in the billions of worlds will obtain immortality as long as they think of my name. The Great Wishart, Venerable Ling Long, had arrived. Calamities and tribulations of heaven and earth, I obtain immortality, eternal light, immeasurable. A furnace descended, endless calamities struck, and heavenly fire set the prairie ablaze. The Tai sect had arrived. Immeasurable heavens, great might, great virtue, 300 great Daos, kill in the void. Then, hundreds of 3,000 great Daos manifested, forming a torrent that swept towards Qiongqi. This was the attack of the Emperor Brush. One Yuan one era, the heavens are immeasurable, I come to create a new era, time and space, cause and effect, reincarnation, kill. When the Void God world opened, there were actually celestial race experts taking action. This was brought in by the first desolate god. He was killed by Venerable Panwu in ancient times and refined into a puppet. But now, he had regained his consciousness and still thought of himself as a celestial race member. Other than that, there were also Buddhists and people from the boundless world. For a moment, Qiongqi was enjoying the treatment of Venerable Ling Long and the others when they besieged the limitless Star Palace. You want to keep me here? You guys are still lacking. Although he was in imminent danger, Qiongqi was calm and composed. Although his cultivation had not recovered to its peak state, he was still vaguely above Venerable Ling Long. He did not have an immortal artifact, but in terms of treasures, he was not bad either. Buzz. First, the Tai 5 smoke net rose into the sky, forming a canopy that protected Qiongqi. Then, the clear sky mirror rose into the sky and shot out a crystal light, instantly freezing all the attacks, including the people who attacked in midair. Kill. Then, the all-heaven sword was unsheathed, and an ancient sound of sword being unsheathed was heard. The sword light chilled the world. In the hands of Fang Qingshan, the all-heaven sword was flowing with the 5 elements. But in the hands of Qiongqi, it was lawless. There was a loud boom. With a slash of the sword, the entire Tianwu treasure vault could no longer withstand. With a loud crack, it shattered into thousands of pieces. After all, there were so many people here. Even the space tide could be torn apart, not to mention the Tianwu treasure vault. Most importantly, the Zuwu mirror that guarded the Tianwu treasure vault and the key of Wilderness God was taken away. It was inevitable that such a situation would occur. The mountains will not change, and the rivers will flow forever. Fellow Taoist, we will meet again. Qiongqi also exerted all his means, withstanding the thunderous attack of the crowd. He did not counterattack, but took advantage of the time when they had just used up their strength and had yet to recover, to cast the great teleportation technique with the clear sky treasure mirror and left. With Qiongqi's means, as long as he was not besieged, who in the all heavens could stop him? Therefore, whether it was Venerable Ling Long, Bodhisattva 10 Earths, or the others, they could only watch helplessly as Qiongqi escaped with the key of Wilderness God. Seeing this scene, Venerable Ling Long, Demon Heart Old Man, Bodhisattva 10 Earths, and the others turned and left. Although the people of Greater One Sect and Limitless Star Palace were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. Chapter 394. Great Red Sky, Grand Pure One Realm. The smoke condensed into an auspicious mist, and the sun and moon emitted auspicious light. The colorful light spiraled, and the purple mist flew. The smoke was ethereal, and it was all from the Khanate Wuji. The immortal peaches and immortal fruits were like golden pills. The green poplars and willows were like jade threads. Daluo Mountain, Xuandu Cave, Tashita 8 Scenic Palace. There was an old man sitting on the cloud bed. His aura was not obvious, and he looked like an ordinary old man. However, he seemed to be in harmony with the world, like the incarnation of the Tao. There was a young man beside the old man. He was dressed like a Taoist priest, but his body was filled with a peaceful aura. It was as if nothing could move him. The two of them were naturally the Saint of Ren School, one of the eldest senior brothers of the Celestial Sect of Wonders, the Grand Pure One, and his only direct disciple, the great Taoist Master Xiandu, at a certain moment. The elder seemed to have suddenly woken up from a deep slumber. His eyes opened. Even though there wasn't any radiance that erupted, eyes that shot out bull-like scenes, the light in his eyes swirled about, as if the sun and moon were rising, the profound principles of yin and yang transformation. In that instant, The entire great scarlet sky seemed to have moved in response. Interesting, interesting, the old man muttered to himself. Then he took out an item. It was a painting that was chaotic and yin-yang. It revealed the image of the great Tao. When it was unfolded, there were thousands of rays of light and auspicious colors. The prophecy of the great Tao surrounded the painting, and the Hongjun Tiandao talisman appeared in the painting. The 5-colored light shone on the mountains and rivers, and the 9-colored auspicious aura shocked the universe. It was the treasure of Rin's school, the Khanate Taiji painting. "Hi," the old man said softly. With a shake of his hand, the world changed color. A white jade golden bridge traversed the void and arrived at a long river that emitted an ancient, mysterious, and destiny aura. River of Destiny. There was a loud boom. The Taiji golden bridge split the earth and opened the sky. It cleared the turbid, stabilized the earth, water, fire, and wind. It could even turn countless space-time into the primordial world. Other than the Creation Jade Archive and the Hongjun Tianao Dharma Wheel, there was probably nothing in the entire world that could surpass this treasure. The River of Destiny was originally calm, but after being stirred by this treasure, it was instantly overturned and turbid waves shot into the sky. In an instant, the mysteries of heaven became obscure. At this moment, the 3 sects were deifying. The Great Tribulation had just appeared. The mysteries of the heavens were dark and gloomy to begin with. After being stirred up by his father, it became even more simple and indistinct, unable to calculate anything clearly. The moment Laozi made his move, the masters of the Shangqing heaven, the Jade Qing heaven, the Imperial Snail Palace, the Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss, the Underworld, the Blood Sea, the Heavenly Court, the North Underworld, the 5 Villages Monastery, and other places all frowned. Obviously, they couldn't understand. Why did they want to hide the secrets of heaven? Could it be that he's starting to set up a trap? Everyone could not help but speculate. However, although it was said that the 3 sects had become gods, it was actually only a matter between Jie School and Chan School. After all, although Laozi had established the Rin School, there was only the great Taoist Master Xiandu in the sect. Moreover, he had been cultivating quietly with him in the Grand Pure One all year round. He did not step into the mortal world, did not get involved in karma, and did not enter the Great Tribulation. There was no need for him to plan at all. He just had to stay in the 9 heavens and watch the changes quietly. However, he did not know why he was here. Senior brother, does that person already know our plan? Is that why he attacked in advance? In the pure land of ultimate bliss, under a Bodhi tree in front of the 8 treasures merit pool, a Buddha holding the wonderful tree of 7 treasures said to the Buddha sitting on the 12th grade golden lotus with a worried expression. His tone was filled with solemnity and uncertainty. So what if he knows? So what if he doesn't know? Who can predict the will of the heavens and the hearts of the people? The skinny Buddha with a bitter expression opened his eyes. There were thousands of reincarnations and karma entangled in his eyes. He glanced at his junior brother beside him and said calmly, "Now that the Great Tribulation is about to begin, it has nothing to do with us. Now that the Great Tribulation is about to arrive, it has nothing to do with us. After this tribulation, my Buddhist sect will prosper greatly. So what's the point of merely scheming? Junior brother, you're in a mess. Senior brother, you're right. I'm foolish." The Buddha holding the wonderful tree of 7 treasures trembled when he heard that. Following that, he nodded in admiration. Not to mention that the entire world was surging with undercurrents following Laozi's action. At this moment, Fang Qingshan had already arrived outside Chaoga City. In the Tianwu treasure vault, Fang Qingshan had obtained the greatest treasures, the Black Emperor Tidal Streamer, the Flame Emperor Fire Dragon Cauldron, the Zuwu Mirror, and the Key of the Desolate God. He had allowed the World Tree to devour a layer of the Key of the Desolate God. Not only had his cultivation broken through to the infinite light realm, but he had also condensed all kinds of providence and opened the world of gods in one go. Not long ago, Fang Qingshan had used up the accumulated providence to open dozens of small worlds. But recently, he had been very lucky. First, he had killed the Soul Eater's sacred beast, which had killed people like flies and committed heinous crimes. Following that, the Limitless Star Palace took advantage of the situation. When the Sandpiper and the Clam fought, the fishermen benefited. Demon Venerable Scarlet Abyss and the others did not obtain the Infinite Chaos Wuji diagram, and the Limitless Star Palace suffered heavy losses. Only he had gained a lot. What Star Sovereign? Not to mention the pure Yang Ocean. He had intercepted the Limitless Star Palace's providence alone. The Limitless Star Palace unified the limitless world and had the Infinite Chaos Wuji diagram, an immortal artifact to suppress the providence. If he had not met Venerable Ling Long and the others, it would be wishful thinking to want a share of it. However, once a strand of it was taken away, it would be like plucking a hair thicker than a waist. Furthermore, Fang Qingshan opened the Tianwu treasure vault and obtained a part of Panwu's inheritance, inheriting a part of Venerable Panwu's providence. Finally, there was the World Tree. Because it devoured the key of the desolate god, the World Tree not only gave back the inheritance imprint, but also gathered the providence scattered around the heavens. With all these superimposed, naturally, the providence was like a rainbow, and the World Tree successfully opened the world of gods. Of course, the world of gods was not one of the 3,000 great worlds of the immortal world, but a great world that inherited the ancient desolation world. Fang Qingshan thought that the world of gods was also a high-end world, with the existence of Hongjun Tiandao, the existence of sages, quasi-sages, and grand heavenly immortals. However, compared to the ancient desolation world, it was much better. As long as he was careful, according to his foresight, there should be no problem. Therefore, he came to the world of gods through the chessboard of heavens. With the World Tree, especially the chessboard of heavens, to conceal the mysteries of heaven. With Fang Qingshan's weak cultivation, it would not have alarmed the Grand Pure One. It's just that he also cultivated the Grand Pure One's core magical power, the One Breath Sanqing. Therefore, as soon as Fang Qingshan entered the world of gods, he was sensed by the Grand Pure One. Following this trace of karma, he knew the whole story with a turn of his mind. Fortunately, the Grand Pure One believed in purity and in action. Although Fang Qingshan was an anomaly, he was too weak, and he was also fated to be with him. So he ignored him and used the Tai Chi diagram to help him conceal the mysteries of heaven. At least before the end of the Great Tribulation, no one except Hongjun Tiandao would be able to discover the existence of Fang Qingshan. As for what happens after that, it depends on Fang Qingshan's own fortune. After all, Fang Qingshan was just fated to be with him, and he was not a direct disciple. Chapter 395. After Fang Qingshan came to the world of gods, the first thing he had to do was naturally to inquire about the news. After asking around in a densely populated town, he found out that DXAN had slowly become licentious and tyrannical from the initial stage of hard work. Although he had not indulged in debauchery, he had already built Deer Terrace. The God Conferment is about to begin. Fang Qingshan sighed. Generally speaking, the great God Conferment tribulation began when Jiang Zia sealed the altar and worshipped the general. But in fact, it had already begun when King Zhou Niuhua mentioned the poem. Deer Terrace was high, and Jiang Zia had already left Chaoga and went to Shichi to fish for the world alone and start a legendary life. At this moment, King Wen was still imprisoned in the desert. Not long after, Boi would enter Chaoga and offer treasures to atone for his father's sins. The Great Tribulation was about to arrive. In the world of gods, if one wanted to gain something, the easiest way was to go to the sage's Taoist field and become a disciple of the sage. However, the only way now was to become a disciple of the Grandmaster of Heaven. But thinking about the fate of the Jie school, Fang Qingshan flinched. If he did not take the path of becoming a disciple of the Grandmaster of Heaven, he could only stand in the right position and share the final fruit of victory. After all, his cultivation was at most comparable to Zhang Guifang's. Even compared to the third-generation disciples of the Chan school, he was not even a little bit inferior. After all, no matter how bad his cultivation was, he had still become an immortal. Although, apart from Yang Jian, many other people had relied on miraculous pills to accelerate their cultivation and become immortals in just a few decades. That was the will of the heavens. It was something that Fang Qingshan could not compare to. With such a cultivation base, it was impossible for him to go on a rampage like he did in the other worlds. Therefore, if Fang Qingshan could not stand in the right position with his cultivation, he could not get any benefits even if he used all his means. Even if Qiongqi's cultivation recovered, he was just a slightly bigger ant here. Not to mention facing the golden immortals of the Chan school, even facing the outer sect disciples of the Jie school, he would die if he was not careful. Standing in the right position might be a difficult choice for others, but for Fang Qingshan, who had foresight, it couldn't be any easier. During the God Conferment battle, Sanqing no longer had any friendship. The 10,000 immortals of Jie school came to the court and dispersed in one day. They were almost wiped out. Although the Chan school had won, they had also lost 800 of their own men. The 12 golden immortals were first trapped by Yun Zhao's 9 Bins Yellow River Array. They used the primordial chaos golden chalice to eliminate the 3 flowers above their heads and the 5 qi in their chests. Following that, with Randang as the leader, Qian Sun, Manju Shri, Samantabhadra, C.I. Hang, and the others broke out of the sect and transformed into the Tao. Although it was better than Jie school, almost losing their roots, compared to what they had to pay, they had also lost a lot. After all, in order to win the final victory of the war, Heavenly Prajur even disregarded his friendship with Sanqing. He personally invited the 2 brothers to join forces with Laozi. The 4 of them besieged Tong Tian and broke the immortal killing sword formation. Not only did he lose face, but he also owed the Buddhist sect a huge debt of karma. As a result, when the Buddhist Dharma spread to the east, he could only watch helplessly, but it was useless. Even so, Fang Qingshan still decided to stand on the side of Chan school. Although the Buddhist sect was the final winner, he could not stay in the world of gods for long. Unless he finally broke through to the zenith heaven golden immortal and transcended all time and space, he could be eternally free. Only then could he get rid of the shackles of the immortal world. Otherwise, there would always be a time limit in other worlds. Besides, he basically cultivated Taoist, mystical abilities. If he switched to Buddhist Dharma, he would be putting the cart before the horse. He did not want to. Most importantly, he had also cultivated the 3 pure ones, which was the true core cultivation method of Taoism. Fang Qingshan secretly guessed that if he dared to turn his back to Buddhism, who knew when the heavens would strike him with divine lightning? Of course, it was not enough to just stand in the right position. One also had to have the ability and contribution. However, with Fang Qingshan's cultivation, it was okay at the beginning. Once the disciples of the 3 mountains and 5 peaks went down the mountain, not to mention him, even Qiongqi would not be able to use them. After all, in addition to the chessboard and the world tree, Fang Qingshan's most powerful treasures were the 9 Doubts Cauldron and the Haoyan treasure mirror. Such treasures were regarded as the top in Mount Shu and the immortal world, but they were ordinary in the world of gods. Not to mention the top innate spiritual treasures, such as the primordial golden dipper and the sea-calming divine pearl. Even compared with the Qingyun sword in the hands of the 4 generals of the Mo family, I am afraid it will not be able to gain the upper hand. This was just a magic weapon. Let's talk about inheritance. Although Fang Qingshan learned Laozi's Sanqing, it was only a magical power. His fundamental Taoism inheritance was still the Hesha wondrous book. At most, he could cultivate to the golden immortal realm. Fortunately, in addition, Fang Qingshan still had dozens of immortal worlds, 3,000 great Taoism methods. As long as he fully understood them, his cultivation could naturally improve steadily. In the world of gods, it could be said that it was safe and dangerous. The safety was that as long as you had strong luck and didn't court death, there would generally be no problems. The danger was that once the disaster came, even the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals were in danger of dying, such as Zhao Gongming and the goddess of Turtle Spirit. Therefore, if you wanted to gain something, standing in the right position was the most important thing, followed by contributions. If your cultivation was not good enough, you could bet in advance. Didn't Liu Buwei have the power to overturn the world because he was a rare commodity? Fang Qingshan wanted to imitate him at the moment, so he came to Chaoga first. In the eyes of those who didn't know, although King Zhou was now muddle-headed, the Shang dynasty was still the Shang dynasty. It had settled the world, and all countries came to the court, while Shiqi was just a foreign vassal. Although King Wen was quite famous, he was a turtle in a jar, and he didn't know if he would have the chance to return to his hometown in this life. Only Fang Qingshan had the foresight to know that this was the last opportunity. He couldn't invest in advance now. If he missed this opportunity, it would not be easy to join the big ship of Shiqi. Therefore, Fang Qingshan decided to come to Chaoli to see King Wen first and see if he could win his favor. If he could help King Wen pass the 5 tests and return to Shiqi smoothly, he could get a share of the pie when he went to Shiqi in the future with his contribution alone. Not to mention that in Chaoga, apart from King Wen, there was another person who couldn't be underestimated. That was Bo Yikao, who sacrificed himself to save his father and was killed by Daji. Bo Yikao wasn't the future master of Shiqi, the human sovereign, but he was also not simple. When he was apotheosized, he was Ziwei the Great, one of the 6 royals of the heavenly court. Although he, Ziwei the Great, was not as good as Hao Yin, the Jade Emperor, but since he had the Karma rank, he naturally had infinite luck. If he could get even a little bit of it, he was afraid that all his previous luck couldn't be compared to it. Therefore, whether it was to smoothly join Shiqi in the future or to make a good relationship with Ziwei the Great, Brother Chaoga had to do it. Chapter 396. Chaoga, the capital of Great Shang. It was a place with many strange people. Not only did people like Wen Zhongji become officials, but there were also many unaffiliated cultivators who roamed the mortal world in order to gain experience. However, because of the protection of the bird of destiny formed by the providence, everyone would be suppressed here, regardless of whether they were deities or not. That was why when Yun Zhongzi went down the mountain to kill the demons, he only dared to borrow the hands of others and gave them the peachwood sword. Even Lady Nuwa wanted to destroy Great Shang with the red embroidered ball because of King Zhou's molestation. However, due to the heavenly mandate, she could only use the demon summoning banner to summon the 3 demons of Xianyuan tomb to cause chaos in the court in order to destroy the providence and destroy King Zhou as soon as possible. Therefore, Fang Qingshan used the great teleportation technique and stopped far away from Xiaoga City. He walked toward Chaoga. Sigh. If the heavens want to destroy it, they must first make it crazy. He sized up Chaoga from afar. Instantly, he felt like a bird that looked like the incarnation of the Tao was in the sky. Fang Qingshan didn't use the qi gazing technique. He wasn't 6-eared macaque, who even dared to eavesdrop on Daozu's Tao preaching. With his cultivation, if he dared to spy on Great Shang's providence, not to mention the bird's attack, even the all-heaven chessboard wouldn't be able to protect him. Even so, he was still a dual cultivator with the universal chessboard, the greatest treasure of fortune, and was proficient in the little destiny art. He could still vaguely sense that the mystic bird above Chaoga's head seemed to be nearing its end, and was filled with a sense of lethargy. When he entered Chaoga, although it wasn't empty, it definitely didn't look like the capital of a country. Although there were people on the streets and alleys, they weren't densely packed. Most importantly, most of them were old, weak, and sick. There were almost no adult men. That was because at this moment, King Zhou had built the Deer Terrace, and all the adult men had been captured. Everyone was panicking, and the people had no way to live. Waves of bad luck, grievance, curse, and baleful energy surged into the sky. Those who didn't know would think that this was a dangerous place. The Providence Beast, the bird of destiny, was sick because of the will of the heavens and the hearts of the people. The heavens decided that the phoenix would cry in Shiqi, and its prosperity would be in Zhou. When one's heart is united, Mount Tai can be moved. When one's heart is not united, water can carry a boat, but it can also overturn it. It's just a matter of time. King Zhou was courting death. Otherwise, even if he couldn't attain the Tao like the ancient 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, he would at least die of old age. But now, Fang Qingshan shook his head. According to the historical records, King Wen performed the Book of Changes. This was where Ji Chong was being held. For 7 years, he was not allowed to return to his homeland. If not for Bo Yikao's arrival and the fact that he pretended to be a tiger that ate its own cubs, he would never be able to return to his roots. In ancient times, a good reputation was more important than any official position, power, or wealth. His tiger body trembled. The aura of a tortoise was the effect of reputation. Apart from other reasons, the reason why Liu Bei was able to stand out from the crowd in the Three Kingdoms period was because of his reputation for benevolence and his status as a member of the Han dynasty. Ji Chong was the same. Because of his great reputation, he was like a living saint. Although he was detained in Zhaoga by King Zhou, he was not persecuted. He only restricted his freedom and was not allowed to leave the temple. Compared to other places in Zhaoga, the atmosphere in the temple was not bad. Fang Qingshan just asked around and came to the place where Ji Chong lived. The place where Ji Chong lived was not bad. After all, he was one of the rulers of the 4 vassal states and had a great reputation. Although King Zhou was muddle-headed and imprisoned Ji Chong, he did not mistreat or make things difficult for him. However, even so, he still sent people to guard him. On the one hand, it was to protect his safety. He did not want Ji Chong to die in the hands of others instead of being killed by them. On the other hand, it was also to monitor him. However, these soldiers were only on guard against mortals. Although Fang Qingshan had not become an immortal, with his means, these soldiers could not defend against him. Fang Qingshan directly performed the great stealth skill and walked in from the front door openly. When he came to the hall, he saw an old man with white hair and a ruddy face kneeling behind the table, reading a roll of bamboo slips. His whole body was filled with a noble spirit. King Wen, Ji Chong, was a living saint and was famous throughout the world. He was good at the 8 trigrams and calculated the secrets of heaven. He received the mandate of heaven to rule the world and created the Book of Changes to determine the state of Zhou. The ancient Saint Emperor, the head of the 3 emperors, Fuxi, obtained the Luo River diagram and created the 8 trigrams. Ji Chong used the 8 trigrams as the foundation and created the Book of Changes to create the 8 trigrams. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Just before Fang Qingshan came to the hall, a few scattered copper coins on the table suddenly jumped. Ji Chong, who was originally calm and happy, immediately frowned when he saw that. Ji Chang's expression changed as he looked around. He stood up and cupped his hands. May I know which distinguished guest has come to visit? Seeing this, Fang Qingshan's eyes could not help but flash with a bright light. He no longer hid himself and retracted the great concealment technique. He arrived in front of Ji Chong in a single step and spoke with a face full of praise. As expected of a living saint, your calculation skills are the best in the world. Impressive. The copper coins in Ji Chang's hand kept spinning when he saw Fang Qingshan. After a while, he couldn't help but smile bitterly and shake his head. Distinguished guest, you flatter me. I didn't predict your arrival, and I also can't predict your background when I see you. How can I dare to say that I'm the best? Marquis, you're too humble. I was just an accident. Fang Qingshan shook his head. He didn't look down on him because he didn't predict him. After all, Fang Qingshan was an anomaly. He wasn't from the world of gods, and his foundation wasn't there, so it was naturally difficult to predict. Secondly, Fang Qingshan had the all-heaven chessboard and the world tree to conceal the secrets of heaven. If King Wen had cultivation, he might be able to see some clues. Unfortunately, he was just a mortal now. Most importantly, the Grand Pure One had taken action and used the Taiji painting to mess up the fate of heaven. Unless a saint was present, the only person who could predict Fang Qingshan's background was probably the Saint Emperor Fuxi, who lived in seclusion in the Fire Cloud Cave. Therefore, it was normal that Ji Chong didn't know about Fang Qingshan's arrival and couldn't predict Fang Qingshan's background. However, after Fang Qingshan used the great concealment technique, It was already not bad that Ji Chong could still find traces of Fang Qingshan. Fortunately, Ji Chong was also an open-minded person. After hearing Fang Qingshan's words, he no longer hesitated. He made an inviting gesture and said with a smile, "Isn't it nice to have a friend coming from afar? Taoist, please take a seat. Please. When in Rome, do as the Romans do." Fang Qingshan didn't refuse. He bowed to Ji Chong and sat down at the side. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Ji Chong said to Fang Qingshan, "How should I address you, Taoist? How should I address you, Taoist? Why are you looking for Ji Chong?" "I'm Fang Qingshan, a member of the celestial sect of wonders. However, the Great Tribulation is approaching, so I went down the mountain to undergo the tribulation. I've heard a Marquis's name, so I've come to pay a visit and form a good relationship." Fang Qingshan didn't hide it and change his method. "So it's Fang Taoist. Sorry for not recognizing you." Ji Chong nodded when he heard that. Chapter 397. Heaven and earth are in position. Mountains and swamps are connected. Thunder and wind are thin. Water and fire do not shoot each other. And the 8 trigrams are intertwined. The innate 8 trigrams. The emperor emerges from Zhen. The qi is like sun, and the meeting is like li. Serving kun, speaking dui, fighting gan, laboring can, and speaking general, it's the Hotian 8 trigrams. Qin san lian, kun 6 break, Jinyang pan, Jin cover bowl, Li zhong su, Kanzhong full dui shan ke, sun xia jie. Qian and dui flourish in autumn and decline in winter. Zhen and Sun flourish in spring and decline in summer. Kun and Jin flourish in the 4 seasons and decline in autumn. Li flourish in summer and decline in the 4 seasons. Can flourish in winter and decline in spring. In the hall where Ji Chong lived, Fang Qingshan and Ji Chong sat on the host and guest seats. At this moment, Fang Qingshan was listening attentively to Ji Chang's description of the Book of Changes. Although Ji Chong was a mortal, the Book of Changes he wrote was a Taoist classic. The Taibu Zhang had 3 methods of changing. The first was Lian Shan, the second was Guizhong, and the third was Zhou Yi. The 8 trigrams of the sutra are all 8, and the rest are all 64. Among them, the Tian family created Lian Shan, the Xinyuan family created Gue Tsang Yi, and the Zhou Yi was created by Ji Chong. The Tian clan referred to the heavenly sovereign Fuxi, while the Xinyuan clan referred to the human sovereign Xinyuan. For Ji Chong to be able to use the Book of Changes alongside their works, one could imagine the value of the Book of Changes. When Laozi left the Hanggu Pass, Ishi obtained the 5,000-word Taoist classic. He founded the Lu Guan school and became a saint. Although the Book of Changes could not be compared to the Tao Te Ching written by the sage, it was also the most important and classic legacy of Taoism. While it was not a cultivation method, it was a dharmic formulation that pointed directly to the great Tao. If one could fully comprehend it, becoming a Grand Luo would not be a problem, much less becoming a saint. Since Fang Qingshan had come to the apatheicized world, he naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Sure enough, after listening to Ji Chang's narration, Fang Qingshan's cultivation did not improve by much, but his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. All along, Fang Qingshan had been exploring his own path of cultivation in a mortal world. Although he joined the emergent sect, to be honest, the help of the emergent sect to him was almost useless except for sharing a part of the luck. Moreover, the cultivation system of the immortal world and the great desolate world are somewhat different. Cultivation in the great desolate world was not just about the accumulation of magic power, but also the improvement of one's cultivation. In the immortal world, in addition to polishing the body at the beginning, later cultivating the magical power, and later comprehending the law, there is not much requirement for the state of mind and cultivation. As long as the realm is there, it can naturally break through. Wealth, companion, dharma, and earth. Although Fang Qingshan didn't have a companion, he didn't lack any of the other 3. Dharma, in particular, was a heavenly book that led straight to the celestial, immortal dharmic formulation. Later, As the world tree continued to grow, the world tree's inheritance was comparable to, and even surpassed, a lord of heaven. However, every time Fang Qingshan broke through the realm, he did not dare to break through too much in one go, because the cultivation is not enough, the state of mind is difficult to improve, and it takes a long time to consolidate the cultivation base. Just like in Tianwu Treasure House, Fang Qingshan got thousands of elixirs, but he did not dare to take them to break through the realm. Fortunately, he still has Qiong Qi, who can restore his cultivation base with the help of elixirs. Otherwise, seeing the treasure can't be used, that kind of feeling is also very sour. This time, listening to Ji Chong talk about the Book of Changes, Fang Qingshan felt that it was not inferior to the harvest of Wuji Star Palace, but even better. After all, except for cultivation, everything else is external. Although Ji Chong has no cultivation base, the Book of Changes is profound, and Fang Qingshan cultivates Taoist methods. With such a master to explain to him, he naturally benefited a lot. Good. Listening to you is better than reading books for 10 years. After a long time, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but clap the table and applaud. Haha, it's Chang's honor to be praised by young master. Hearing Fang Qingshan's cheers, Ji Chong couldn't help but stroke his beard with a smug look on his face. Then he smiled and said, "What the Taoist said has also inspired me a lot." Ji Chong was not the only one who explained the Book of Changes to Fang Qingshan. Fang Qingshan also didn't take advantage of him. Although he didn't explain divine abilities or cultivation methods, he also explained the general principles of the heavenly books, especially some calculation methods, which made Ji Chong even more happy. For a moment, they chatted about everything, but they regretted not meeting each other earlier. At this point, Fang Qingshan stayed in the forest. During the day, he went to the place where Ji Chong lived and discussed the Tao with him. At night, he returned to his room, took the elixirs, and meditated to cultivate. His cultivation base naturally improved by leaps and bounds. Although it wasn't as good as the day when the world tree was enlightened and took one step at a time, such gradual progress was also more stable. 2 flowers bloomed, each with a branch. Jiangxia had already escaped 5 passes, past Golden Chicken Ridge, Shouyang Mountain, Yin Mountain, White Willow Village, and went to Shiqi Mountain. After traveling for 70 miles, he arrived at Shiqi City. Although it wasn't a place where people didn't pick up things on the road or close their doors at night, it was a place where the people were harmonious, the people were rich, the old and the young weren't bullied, and the people were modest. When he arrived here, Jiang Ziya's body trembled as if it was fate. He immediately knew that his opportunity was here, so he didn't leave anymore. He found a place to live in seclusion in the nearby river. At the same time, Ji Chong was detained by King Zhou in Chaoga for more than 7 years. Although Bo Yikao was in charge of the court on his father's behalf, San Yisheng and Nangong Shi were assisting him. Everything was stable. He didn't know if it was because of filial piety or the will of heaven. Bo Yikao couldn't help but have the thought of going to Chaoga to atone for his father. A family couldn't be without a master, and a country couldn't be without a king. Shiqi looked fine now, but no one knew if there would be any accidents. If something big happened and the king wasn't there, it would be a disaster. Therefore, no one in the court objected to Bo Yikao's proposal to go to Chaoga. Although they agreed, they couldn't help but worry when they thought of King Zhou, who had become more violent, fatuous, and greedy these years. Fortunately, they knew that in order to please Daji, the evil woman, King Zhou collected all the rare treasures in the world. Coincidentally, there were several treasures in Shiqi. They were the 7 fragrances chariot, the hangover blanket, and the white-faced ape. The 7 fragrances chariot was left by Emperor Xianyuan when he defeated Qiyu in the North Sea. If people sat on it, they didn't need to push it. They could go east or west if they wanted to go west. In fact, it was just an intelligent wheelchair. However, in the eyes of ordinary people in ancient times, it was also a great treasure. As for the hangover blanket, when people were drunk and lying on it, they would wake up in a short time. It was an enhanced version of hangover soup. As for the white-faced ape, although it was an animal, It knew 3,000 small songs and 800 big songs. It could sing songs before a banquet and dance on the palm. It was really like the oriole in the wind and the willow in the wind. Therefore, people proposed to bring these three treasures to pay tribute. They thought that for the sake of these three treasures, they wouldn't make things difficult for Master and Master Ho. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. After all, it was the will of heaven, and Bo Ekau couldn't escape. Chapter 398. Li. The residents of the Marquis of the West, Ji Chong, Fong Qingshan, and Ji Chong chatted, each expressing their own views. Although they were of different ages, cultivation states, and status, both of them were knowledgeable and had a deep mind. It was not enough to describe them as talented, but they appreciated each other. Secondly, Fong Qingshan had deliberately befriended Ji Chong, and because of the Book of Changes, he held Ji Chong in high esteem. Ji Chong had been imprisoned for 7 years. Although his life was not hindered, and by Gon and the others visited him from time to time, he was still depressed. Now that he had such a good listener like Fong Qingshan, a good person to communicate with, it was really like Yuboya meeting Zhong Ziki, regretting not meeting him earlier. On this day, when the two of them were chatting happily, Ji Chang's eyebrows suddenly twitched and a scarlet light suddenly flashed in front of his eyes. Following that, the copper coins on the table also twitched, but the sound was chaotic and extremely noisy. Ji Chong held his chest, his face pale, and his body suddenly swayed. "Marquis, what's wrong with you?" Looking at Ji Chong, who was fine just now, suddenly acting like a disease, Fong Qingshan's expression also changed. He quickly flashed in front of Ji Chong, activated his mana, and the wood attribute genuine chi that was best at healing burst out. It flowed along Ji Chang's meridians twice, and then Ji Chong finally breathed a sigh of relief. Ji Chong did not immediately answer Fong Qingshan's words, but hurriedly held up the copper coins to do a divination. 2 lines of tears suddenly flowed out, and he even muttered to himself, "Is this the will of heaven?" Seeing this situation, Fong Qingshan suddenly understood. The Marquis of the West had been imprisoned in Zhaoga for 7 years, and he had always had an expression as if the sky was falling down. Every day, he would read and solve his doubts, and he was happy and contented. Where had he ever seen such a lonely and helpless look? And as far as Fong Qingshan knew, there was only one thing that could make the Marquis of the West so fragile, and that was Boyi's entry into the capital. There were 4 great joys in life: sweet rain after a long sweat, meeting an old friend in a foreign land, wedding night, and getting a place in the imperial examination. There were also 4 great tragedies in life: adding insult to injury, losing one's mother at a young age, losing one's wife in middle age, and losing one's son in old age. It was already a tragedy for a white-haired person to send off a black-haired child. If they had to eat the flesh of their child, just thinking about it was enough to know what kind of situation it would be. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs, let alone a human. Moreover, even in the years of famine, even if there were tragedies, they would still eat their children. When had they ever eaten their own sons? At this moment, Fong Qingshan suddenly had a strong desire to kill Daji and King Zhou. This was not only because he wanted to curry favor with Ji Chong, nor was it because he was on good terms with Ji Chong. It was purely because of their malicious intentions. Killing Bo Ekau was just a matter of nodding his head to the ground. Killing Bo Ekau was one thing, but not letting Ji Chong go was another. After all, he acted under the order of Niuhua and disrupted the imperial court. Besides, it was King Zhou who was in the wrong. But because Bo Ekau didn't agree to be her gigolo, she made the father and son eat each other. It was a heinous crime. If he didn't kill them, it wouldn't appease the anger of the people. If he didn't kill them, it wouldn't be enough to uphold justice. King Zhou was the same. Although he was bewitched, he was just blinded by lust. King Zhou, the supreme human emperor, was born with the protection of the chi of crepe myrtle and the protection of the bird of destiny. Even Lady Niuhua had no choice but to obey the will of the heavens if she wanted to deal with him, much less a mere 9-tailed fox. In the final analysis, it was just that King Zhou was not strong-willed and lusted after women. Furthermore, as long as he had a trace of benevolence and rationality in his heart, he would not agree to Daji's request. Therefore, both Daji and King Zhou deserved to die. Unfortunately, now is not the time. Fang Qingshan forcefully suppressed the killing intent in his heart. King Zhou and Daji were the key to this war of deification. Even Lady Niuhua had to settle for second best, let alone Fang Qingshan. Let's not talk about whether the gods and Buddhas would allow him to do so. With his current cultivation, he could not kill King Zhou at all. If he forced himself to do it, the backfire of fate alone was enough to kill him. This was also the reason why so many masters in the 3 mountains and 5 peaks had never tried to assassinate King Zhou. Unless the country was destroyed, otherwise, with the chi of the human emperor, the chi of crepe myrtle, and the protection of the bird of destiny, King Zhou was even more powerful than the Xianhuang exquisite pagoda above his head. But now is not the time to talk about this. The most important thing was to comfort Ji Chong. Although Fang Qingshan already knew the whole story, he obviously could not say it. He could only pretend to be anxious and said, "Marquis, what's the matter with you? Tell me, and let me analyze it for you. Maybe I can help you a little. You're really anxious to keep it to yourself." Ji Chong could become the Marquis of the West and was praised as a living saint by the world, so he must have a strong will. Just now, he was suddenly hit by the loss of his son in old age and the fact that he was about to eat his son's flesh. Now that he heard Fang Qingshan's words, his rationality finally prevailed. He calmed himself down and told Fang Qingshan everything he had calculated in detail. He deserves to be killed. Instantly, Fang Qingshan showed a look of uncontrollable anger. Filled with righteous indignation, he immediately pounded the table and stood up, saying, "King Zhou is unscrupulous. I'll kill him for Marquis." After saying that, Fang Qingshan stood up, pretending to go to assassinate King Zhou. "Wait, my good brother." Seeing Fang Qingshan's action, Ji Chong was instantly moved. He hurriedly grabbed Fang Qingshan's hand and did not let go, shaking his head hard and saying, "If the emperor wants the minister to die, the minister has to die. Moreover, King Zhou is the human emperor. With the protection of the human emperor's chi, no magic can hurt him. Besides, there is the bird of destiny here. Even the almighty heaven golden immortal can't hurt him. Not to mention my good brother. Don't make useless efforts. Otherwise, it will only make our relatives suffer and our enemies happy. Should we just let it go?" Fang Qingshan said with a look of disbelief. "If we don't let it go, what else can we do?" Ji Chong said with a bitter face. Although this era was not as strict as the future, the emperor was the ruler. Unless it was absolutely necessary, resistance was a crime of great treason, not to mention rebellion. Humph, a fine bird chooses a tree to nest in, and 20% chooses its master. Hearing that, Fang Qingshan snorted coldly. What's there to talk with this kind of perverse person? With Marquis' prestige, the world will definitely gather to respond when he raises his arm. No, absolutely not. Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, Ji Chang's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly got up and came to the door. After looking around, he was relieved and returned to the table, saying to Fang Qingshan solemnly, "I know you mean well, my good brother. I know you mean well, but walls have ears. I can't say such words again. Otherwise, there will be unforeseen dangers." Of course, Fang Qingshan could hear that this was Ji Chang's sincere concern. He could not help but nod secretly and did not mention it again. Instead, he changed the topic. The urgent matter now is how to rescue the first young master and then send Marquis back to Shichi. Chapter 399. It's not easy to rescue my son. Ji Chong sighed heavily. As for returning to Shichi, it's easy. As long as their wish is fulfilled, there won't be any changes, but speaking of this, Ji Chong couldn't help but choke with sobs. Bo Yikao had committed a serious crime, and he was not as famous as Ji Chong. The ministers in the imperial court would not forcibly contradict King Zhou for him. Bo Yikao's fate had been doomed since he came to Chaoga City. There was only death. What about Ji Chong? Bo Ikao's arrival was indeed a great opportunity for him to escape. However, if he didn't eat his son's flesh, he couldn't escape death. If he ate his son's flesh, how could he bear it? Upon seeing Ji Chang's long sighing appearance, Fang Qingshan suddenly laughed softly and said, "Have you forgotten me, Master Ho? You?" Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, especially seeing the certainty on his face, Ji Chong couldn't help but be stunned. It's actually not difficult to save young Master and help Master Ho get out of trouble. Fang Qingshan chuckled. Really? Ji Chong was shocked. Then, he quickly stood up and bowed respectfully to Fang Qingshan. Brother, please save my father and me. I will never forget your kindness. He was grasping at the life-saving straw. Moreover, through the conversation with Fang Qingshan these days, he knew that Fang Qingshan was not a person who spoke without thinking. Hey! Seeing Ji Chang's action, Fang Qingshan quickly dodged to avoid this bow and scolded. What are you doing, Master Ho? Although you and I haven't known each other for long, we can be regarded as close friends now. Moreover, listening to Master Ho explain the Book of Changes to me is also of great benefit to my cultivation. Not to mention these, how can I just stand by and do nothing when I encounter this matter? Oh? What's the plan? Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, Ji Chong couldn't help but smile and asked hurriedly. It's very simple. Fang Qingshan stretched out a finger and said, substitute the real one, cross the sea by deception. Is he trying to deceive everyone? Ji Chong repeated his words. Although there was no such thing as the 36 stratagems, what kind of person was Ji Chong? From the literal meaning, he could understand the logic contained within. That's right. Since King Zhou and the demon concubine want to murder the first young master, if we can't get what they want, I'm afraid they will do something else. Fang Qingshan nodded and explained. Since that's the case, we might as well let them have their wishes come true. I have a technique called the Great Transformation Technique. When the time comes, we can randomly find a condemned prisoner or an animal and transform it into the young master's appearance. I'm sure that the executioners won't be able to tell if it's real or fake. Good, this is good. When Ji Chong heard the words substitution, he vaguely had some ideas in his mind. When he heard Fang Qingshan's explanation, he immediately became excited and said good a few times. Forget about death row prisoners. Let's just use animals. Thinking that he still had to eat meatballs in the end, Ji Chong added, Don't worry, Marquis. Fang Qingshan nodded with a smile. As long as we get through this, Master Ho can return to his hometown. Everything depends on you, my good brother. Ji Chong said gratefully. If it wasn't for Fang Qingshan, he would have been in a dilemma this time. Not to mention whether he could return to West Qi or not. He couldn't bear to watch his son die to save him. In the end, his son even wanted to eat him. There's no time to lose. I'll set off now to save the first young master in case he is killed. Master Ho, wait for my good news here. Fang Qingshan said to Ji Chong. Good. Ji Chong heard this and nodded repeatedly. On the other side, Bo Ikao originally came to pay tribute with the 3 treasures of Shiqi, hoping to please King Zhou so that he could release his father. However, although the 3 sacred treasures of Shiqi won King Zhou's favor, he also fell into the eyes of Daji. Daji was a 9-tailed celestial fox. She was a peerless beauty, and she was also good at bewitching people. Not to mention mortals. Even immortals could not escape from her hands. If one died under a peony flower, he would be a romantic ghost. Didn't you see King Zhou, the human emperor, also kneeling under her pomegranate skirt? Unfortunately, not everyone was into this kind of thing. No one knew whether Bo Ikao was full of gay love, or he had someone else in his heart, or he was determined. Anyway, no matter how Daji threatened or tempted him, Bo Ikao was not willing to give himself. This finally annoyed Daji. Su Daji was a 9-tailed fox with earth-shattering charm. As long as she flattered her, she had never failed on anyone. Today, Bo Ikao broke the record. How could she not hate him? As the saying goes, green bamboo is like a snake's mouth, and a wasp's tail is like a needle. Neither of them was poisonous, but a woman's heart was the most poisonous. What she couldn't get, she would destroy. Therefore, Bo Ikao suffered a tragedy. Although Daji did not dare to brazenly use her spells, she made a small attempt to make him suffer a huge setback. The white ape that was offered tried to assassinate King Zhou. Then, in a moment of anger, he smashed the zither and hurt Daji. Immediately, King Zhou made up his mind to execute him. It didn't matter if he hurt himself, but if he hurt the baby Daji, he couldn't atone for his crime even if he died 10,000 times. Then Daji fanned the flames, so there was the story of Bo Ikao being made into a meatball for Ji Chong to swallow. In the imperial kitchen, Bo Ikao was escorted here by the guards. His evil spirit soared to the sky. Even the bird of destiny in the air seemed to become a little illusory because of this evil spirit. Alas, young Earl, we're just following the orders from above. If you die with regrets, don't come to us. Both the guards and the cook were very sympathetic to Bo Ikao's ending. But since King Zhou became muddle-headed, this kind of thing had happened. Therefore, although they sympathized with him, they still helped the tyrant without hesitation. After all, he was just an ordinary person. If they didn't do as King Zhou said, Bo Ikao's current situation would be a true portrayal of himself. Freeze! Just at this moment, a light sound rang out. All of a sudden, everyone in the imperial kitchen, everything, and even time and space were frozen. Time and space were frozen. Then, Fang Qingshan took a step forward. First, he put Bo Ikao into the space. Then he reached out his hand and replaced Bo Ikao with a cicadeer in the imperial kitchen. Then, he performed the big transformation skill on it and turned it into Bo Ikao's appearance. Finally, he removed the time and space stillness. Neither the guards nor the cook knew what had just happened. They thought that it was Bo Ikao who was killed, and a trace of pity flashed in their eyes. Not long after, Bo Ikao was slaughtered and made into a meatball. Until now, Fang Qingshan hadn't left. He stripped off a trace of Bo Ikao's aura and integrated it into the meatball. Then, he performed the little destiny skill to cover it up. After all, he had to put on a show. Only at this moment did he quietly leave the palace. Chapter 400. Father, my son. After Fang Qingshan brought Bo Ikao back, he sealed the area and left, leaving the father and son to talk about the old days. They looked at each other in silence, and tears flowed down their cheeks. Though they had 1,000 words to say, they couldn't say them. They could only cry with their heads in their hands. Men don't shed tears easily. This time, if it weren't for Fang Qingshan's help, the father and son would have been separated forever. Ji Chong would have to bear the bad name of eating his son raw. In fact, it was very easy to save Bo Ikao. In Zhaoge, especially in the royal palace, there was a strong suppression on sorcery. But as long as they didn't use it on King Zhou and didn't make a big noise, there wouldn't be any problems. Yin Zhongzi had people hang the Peachwood sword, and Fang Qingshan saved Bo Ikao. All of these prove this point. But those who had the ability to do this, or had nothing to do with Ji Chong and the others, naturally wouldn't help. Or they felt that this was the mandate of heaven and couldn't be disobeyed. Since West Qi could accept the mandate of heaven and rule the world, it naturally needed to torture its will, strain its muscles and bones, starve its skin, empty its body, and mess up its actions. Besides, Bo Ikao was just a mortal now, who knew that he would have the fate of Ziwei the Great when he was apatheicized. As for those who knew this, it was even more impossible for them to casually make a move just for this. This time, it wasn't that they couldn't help him, but they didn't want to. They didn't care about this favor at all. So, no one helped him. But Fang Qingshan took advantage of it. After a long while, Bo Ikao and his son finally recovered. They came to Fang Qingshan and bowed deeply. "Hey, what are you doing?" Fang Qingshan quickly helped them up with both hands. With Fang Qingshan's cultivation, Ji Chong and his son naturally couldn't continue bowing. They didn't insist and just kept their gratitude in their hearts. Just at this moment, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from outside the house. Fang Qingshan hurriedly gave the two a look, then pulled Bo Ikao and used a great concealment technique, immediately disappearing from the house. An imperial edict was passed down. His Majesty could not bear to see the virtuous Marquis cooped up in the palace for so long. Yesterday, His Majesty was fortunate enough to hunt and managed to catch a deer carcass. He made it into meatballs and specially bestowed it to virtuous Marquis. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Although he had foreseen this, Ji Chang couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart when it really happened. However, this wasn't Bo Ikao's meat, and he wanted to leave Chaoga City, so he had to eat the meat whether he wanted it or not. Didn't he see that the official hadn't left yet? Obviously, he wanted to see Ji Chang swallow the meatball with his own mouth. No matter whether Ji Chang knew it was Bo Ikao's meat or not, as long as he ate it, his great reputation would be ruined and he would no longer be a threat to King Zhou. This was the only way for him to leave Chaoga City. Without any hesitation, Ji Chang wolfed down the meatball with a look of enjoyment on his face. Then he said to the envoy officer, "I've already prepared the meatball. This meat is extremely delicious. Please reply to His Majesty. Thank him for thinking of this old official." Okay. I'll definitely report it to His Majesty." Seeing that Ji Chang really finished the bowl of meatballs, the official couldn't help but shake his head secretly. Although he sympathized with him, he also showed a look of benefit. Uncle Ji knew the innate number of gods and was good at knowing good or bad luck. What a great reputation. In the end, he saw the meat but didn't know it. The so-called good or bad luck of yin and yang were all empty words. However, he didn't know that the meatball had already been replaced. Moreover, Ji Chang was also a best actor. He didn't show it at all. When he went back and told Ji Chang about it vividly, King Zhou immediately gave up the idea of keeping Ji Chang. People in ancient times didn't live long, and they were already very old at 70. Ji Chang was already old and had been detained for 7 years. If he could really avoid bad luck and was good at yin and yang, it would be fine. But now it was better to let him go. If he died in Chaoga City, it would greatly damage King Zhou's reputation, although he wouldn't have any reputation left. King Zhou had made up his mind. Without Daji making trouble, and with Baigan and others who were on good terms with him, even the traitors like Fei Zhong and Yu Han were bought over. The matter of letting Marquis of the West Ji Chang go was settled. As for Bai Li, he finally let out a long sigh of relief after receiving the decree of King Zhou. "Master Ho, young master, it's not the time to relax yet." Seeing that Ji Chang and Bo Ikao seemed to have escaped from death and passed the great disaster, Fang Qingshan had to stand out and pour cold water on them. Now there are 2 urgent problems to solve. "What problems?" Ji Chang and Bo Ikao asked at the same time. Since Fang Qingshan saved Bo Ikao and prevented Ji Chang from knowing that he saw the meat and ate it quickly, the 2 trusted him greatly. "One is the problem of young master." Fang Qingshan pointed at Bo Ikao and said, "Young master is dead now. If Master Ho doesn't want to rebel, you'd better think about how to arrange it first." Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, the 2 suddenly fell silent. Yes, although Bo Ikao was saved as long as Shichi didn't rebel, he couldn't show up in the open. After all, Bo Ikao was the eldest son of Marquis of the West. After Ji Chang died, he should be the Lord of Shichi. But now, he didn't even think about it. "Benefactor, you worry too much." Just when Ji Chang was feeling guilty and didn't know what to do, Bo Ikao smiled. "I don't have the patience for those affairs. Besides, without me, there is still my second brother. Everything is not a problem." Speaking of this, Bo Ikao paused, got up and came to Fang Qingshan, bowed and said, "But I have something to trouble you, benefactor." "Oh, what's the matter?" Fang Qingshan raised his eyebrows. "I've been longing for the immortal path for a long time. In the future, I'll just live a carefree life. I wonder if benefactor can be merciful and accept me as a disciple and teach me Taoism." Bo Ikao looked at Fang Qingshan with a face full of hope. Ji Chang, who didn't know how to arrange and compensate Bo Ikao, was immediately delighted. He also came to Fang Qingshan's side, bowed solemnly, and said, "Brother, you've helped us a lot. There shouldn't be any more trouble." But Ji Chang paused, his eyes full of guilt. "Brother, please accept my son. It was really like having a pillow when you were sleepy. Why did Fang Qingshan come to Zhaoge? It was for luck. He wanted to first establish a good relationship with Bo Yikao and Ji Chong. Although it was done well now, how could it be compared to the deep relationship between master and disciple? Bo Yikao would be Ziwei the Great in the future. Becoming his disciple would be equivalent to becoming the teacher of the emperor. How could the luck that he could obtain be compared to a mere good relationship? Although Fang Qingshan was excited, he didn't show it on his face. He was silent for a while, which made people feel that this was very difficult. After all, things that were too easy to obtain could not make people feel grateful. Chapter 4:01. Forget it. Although Master Ho and I haven't known each other for long, we feel like old friends at first sight. Moreover, I saved eldest young master, so we are fated. Fang Qingshan did not hesitate for long as he looked at the father and son duo, who were filled with anticipation and unease. After a moment of silence, he finally nodded his head. Fine, I will accept eldest young master. Hearing this, both Ji Chong and Bo Yikao could not help but let out a heavy breath. Techniques could not be passed on easily. In this era, although immortals and mortals were the same, as long as there were famous mountains and rivers, there would be immortals. Even on the streets, there might be unworldly masters. But except for the Jie sect and the Western sect, the acceptance of disciples was extremely strict. Although the Jie sect taught everyone without discrimination, without some real ability, one could not even reach the Aquamarine Palace, let alone become a disciple. After all, the Golden Turtle Island was located overseas, and the four seas were vast, but there were many more dangerous places than on the mainland. Without some effort, one would have to pay before reaching the destination. As for the Western sect, they were thirsty for talents. Although Zhuanyi was known as the 1 meter higher sky and had saved countless people, how many of those who caught his eye were simple? After all, he was a sage. Although he wanted to glorify Buddhism, he couldn't just accept any ordinary person. If it was Ji Chong who wanted to become an immortal with his reputation as a living sage and accumulated merits, there might be people who would welcome him. As for Bo Yikao, unless he was like Fang Qingshan, who knew what would happen in the future, he could not even think about it. Bo Yikao and Ji Chong also knew that they were forcing him, but there was no other way, so they had to be thick-skinned. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan finally agreed, and Ji Chong could be considered to have given an explanation to his eldest son. Please wait. Seeing Ji Chong and Bo Yikao's overjoyed expression, Fang Qingshan shook his head and said solemnly, "There are some things that we should talk about first." Facing the puzzled eyes of Bo Yikao and Ji Chong, Fang Qingshan decided to make some things clear. Otherwise, it would not be fun if he regretted it in the future. First of all, I have to clarify that my cultivation has not even reached the immortal path. Are you sure you want me to be your master? Yes, no problem at all. To Fang Qingshan's surprise, as soon as he finished speaking, Bo Yikao and Ji Chong answered almost in unison. Seeing Fang Qingshan's surprised expression, the father and son could not help but smile at each other. The reason why Bo Yikao did not care about it was that he only yearned for a leisurely life. He did not care about becoming an immortal or achieving the Tao. His temperament was in line with the concept of inaction of Taoism. As for Ji Chong, after all, he was the editor of the Book of Changes. He had a clear understanding of good and bad luck, yin and yang. Although he could not calculate the specific situation of Fang Qingshan, the divination in the unseen showed that Bo Yi becoming Fang Qingshan's disciple was a sign of great fortune. Since that was the case, what was there to hesitate about? Don't worry, little brother. A teacher for a day, a father for life. There's nothing to regret. Ji Chong promised. That's right. Benefactor, I sincerely want to become your disciple. Bo Yikao also nodded solemnly. All right. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face as he spoke confidently. Although I have yet to become an immortal, it is just a matter of time. Before reaching the gold immortal stage, cultivation techniques will not be an issue. After a pause, Fang Qingshan continued. Even after becoming a gold immortal, if eldest young master can catch up, I can also recommend you to a realm that is the most precious place in the heavens. If you can catch his eye, your cultivation path will no longer be bumpy. What Fang Qingshan said was that if Bo Yikao treated him sincerely and he couldn't hand him over in the future, he would pass on the one Qi Sanxing to him and let him go to Mount Shouyang or the Tishida Palace to try his luck. However, Ji Chong and the other man did not pay attention to the latter part of the sentence. They were completely surprised by the first part of the sentence. A golden immortal. Surprisingly, Fang Qingshan's legacy could allow one to cultivate up to the golden immortal stage. It should be known that the most famous disciples of the Chan school were only the 12 golden immortals. Although these two golden immortals were somewhat different, Bo Yikao and the other man did not care at all. After ancient times, except for the disciples of the saints, the ancient mighty figures who could cultivate to the golden immortal stage were at least rare experts. They would be treated courteously even if they entered the heavenly court. Disciple greets master. Now that things were clear, the next step was naturally to acknowledge him as a master. Now that they were in the bai, Fang Qingshan did not like noise, so everything was simple. A cup of tea, 3 kneels, and 9 bows. From then on, Bo Yikao became a disciple of Fang Qingshan. Since you have become my disciple, I will naturally teach you the cultivation method and the Tao protection treasure. With a smile on his face, Fang Qingshan helped Bo Yikao up, raised his hand, and passed the 5 elements true explanation to him. The 5 elements true explanation was the fundamental great Tao that Fang Qingshan had compiled based on the sand wondrous book, the pure yang sword art, the flesh heavenly book, and the various great Tao of the immortal world. Of course, apart from the mastery of the cosmic light state, the rest was just a mixture. But this was enough. Then, with a wave of his hand, he gave the star Emperor Dragon Bed and the Dishi Scepter to Bo Yikao. Bo Yikao would be one of the 6 royals of the heavenly court, Ziwei the Great. So these 2 magic treasures were the most suitable for him. Thank you, master. Bo Yikao was pleasantly surprised, and he bowed to Fang Qingshan with a grateful expression. Fang Qingshan waved his hand and asked him to step aside. Then he said to Ji Chong, who also looked gratified, Bo Yikao's matter is over. We've finished talking about Bo Yikao. Now let's talk about Master Ho. What we need to do now is to wait for the edict to be issued. Before King Zhou changes his mind, we should immediately return to Shichi to avoid unnecessary trouble. I will listen to you, my good brother. Ji Chong had long been eager to return, and he did not trust King Zhou at all. What if he went back on his word? So, he naturally had no objection to this. Just then, the envoy delivered the imperial edict, and the pardon letter had arrived. Fang Qingshan and Bo Yikao stepped aside. Ji Chong shed tears of joy and said a bunch of words of gratitude half truthfully and half falsely. After the mission officer left, he didn't hesitate at all. He didn't even inform Bai Gan and the others who were on good terms with him, and left the village almost at the same time as the mission officer. After leaving Bai Li, Fang Qingshan left Chaoga City with Ji Chong without stopping, and then rushed to the 5th pass. He seized the opportunity and did not waste any time. In fact, Fang Qingshan wanted to put Ji Chong and Bo Yikao into the space together, and then use the escape method to go to West Qi. This way, it would save time and effort, and it would not be exposed. But as soon as this idea came to his mind, he felt a dark cloud covering his head, and the black air between his eyebrows was dense. The great disaster skill and the little fate skill in his body kept beating. Obviously, if he did this, he would be immediately faced with a disaster. In this regard, Fang Qingshan had no choice but to accompany Ji Chong to speed up. Chapter 402. Meanwhile, Fang Qingshan was taking Ji Chong back to Shichi under the stars and the moon. Then, someone came to congratulate them. Who were these people? Other than Fei Zhong, Yu Hun, King Wuqing who was patrolling outside, and Grand Tutor when he was fighting, everyone in the court, regardless of rank, civil or military, came to congratulate him. There were Wei Zi, Ji Zi Baigan, Wei Ziki, Wei Zian, Mai Yun, Mai Ji, and so on. However, when they arrived, the door was shut in their face. A servant came forward to greet the lords and said respectfully, "The Marquis is grateful to all of you." However, the good news came too suddenly, and he was too excited. It's inevitable that he would be rude. Moreover, King Zhou is very kind, and he needs to enter the palace to express his gratitude. Hence, he needs 3 days to take a bath and fast to calm himself down. I hope that all of you can understand. Although Wei Zi, GZ, and the others were met with a cold reception, they didn't mind it. They were all open-minded people. Moreover, they were on good terms with Ji Chong and understood his feelings. Hence, they naturally wouldn't force him. Hence, everyone returned to the residence and visited a few days later. Only Fei Zhong and Yu Hun felt that something was amiss. However, they didn't know why. After thinking about it, they didn't do anything. After all, they played a big role in Ji Chang's release. However, they didn't know that although this servant was still the original servant, he had already been enlightened by Fang Qingshan using the Great Salvation Technique. Everything he said was instructed by Fang Qingshan in advance to buy time for Ji Chong to escape. This delay lasted for 3 days. On the 3rd day, when everyone came to visit again, the place was already empty. Seeing this scene, everyone couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. After a while, Bygone couldn't help but say bitterly, "The Marquis of the West is muddle-headed." He left without saying goodbye. What does he think of the king? It seems that the king is right. Ji Chong must have the intention to rebel. Otherwise, why would he put in so much effort? What are you waiting for? Quickly report to the king that the Marquis of the West, Ji Chong, escaped from Zhaoga. Quickly arrest him. Even though Wei Zi, GZ, and the rest were on good terms with Ji Chong, they were clear about their private and public affairs. Although King Zhou had allowed Ji Chong to return to Shiqi, he first asked his servants to lie and then left without saying goodbye. From a minor point of view, it showed that he didn't trust the king and the people. From a major point of view, it showed that he had ulterior motives and was rebellious. Although the Great Shang Dynasty was still the Great Shang Dynasty, it was no longer the same as before after Emperor Zhou's torment. Of the 800 feudal vassals, the north and south had been in rebellion for many years. Now that the rebellious Ji Chong had left, another calamity had arisen. It was truly troubled times. Therefore, under the leadership of Wei Zi, GZ, and the others, they immediately went to the imperial palace and requested to see King Zhou. They explained what had happened and asked King Zhou to immediately close the 5 passes and arrest Ji Chong. Hearing this, King Zhou was furious. As a superior, he hated people who deceived him the most. Ji Chang's behavior was obviously fooling him. Furious, King Zhou immediately ordered Yin Po Bai and Lei Kai to lead 3,000 winged cavalry warriors to capture Ji Chong. If anyone resisted, he would be killed on the spot. Although the winged cavalry warriors were fast, Fang Qingshan had left with Ji Chong 3 days in advance. Therefore, they couldn't catch Ji Chong in a short time. On the other side, Fang Qingshan and Ji Chong ate and slept in the open. If it wasn't for the fact that Ji Chang's body couldn't take it, they wouldn't have stopped at all. After leaving Zhaoga City, they passed Mengjin City, crossed the Yellow River, and followed the Minchi Road to Tongwan. At this moment, the news of what happened in Zhaoga City had not spread here yet. Therefore, Fang Qingshan and Ji Chong passed through the pass openly. Seeing that the Marquis of the West was passing by, the general guarding Tongwan wanted to host a banquet. Ji Chong didn't dare to stay. He said that he was homesick and rejected the general's good intention. Then, he followed Fang Qingshan and left Tongwan without stopping. Not long after Ji Chong left Tongwan, Yin Po Bai and Lei Kai arrived. After hearing what the general guarding Tongwan said, they hurriedly chased after Ji Chong. At this time, Yun Zhongzi should have predicted that Ji Chang's tribulation was over and asked Lei Zhenzi to save his father. However, with Fang Qingshan around, there was no need to do so. Yin Po Bai and Lei Kai were about to catch up to him with their banners fluttering in the wind and their swords and halberds on their backs. However, Ji Chong wasn't afraid at all. After all, he had absolute trust in Fang Qingshan and believed that there was nothing he couldn't solve. Sure enough, seeing that Yin Po Bai and Lei Kai were chasing after him, Fang Qingshan wasn't afraid at all. He waved his hand unhurriedly. In a split second, sand and pebbles flew and the sky turned dark. A large formation suddenly appeared, enveloping Yin Po Bai, Lei Kai, and the 3,000 soldiers. Younger brother, these people are only following orders. Please don't take their lives. Ji Chong was ultimately benevolent and pleaded with Fang Qingshan. Don't worry, Marquis. Fang Qingshan nodded. The formation he used was just a bewitching formation. It trapped Yin Po Bai, Lei Kai, and the others for a period of time, preventing them from chasing after him or reporting to him, so that Ji Chong could pass the 5 passes easily. After all, the Great Shang wasn't without capable people. Not to mention Kong Xian in the Three Mountains Pass. Even the 4 Mo brothers in the Jiaming Pass were not people that Fang Qingshan could deal with. Once they were alarmed, it would be troublesome. Without the pursuers, the general guarding Tongwan naturally didn't know what had happened. Just like the general guarding Tongwan, he sent Ji Chong out of the 5 passes. After passing Golden Chicken Mountain, they traveled for a period of time before finally returning to Shiqi. The closer he was to his hometown, the more timid he was. Seeing the familiar scene, Ji Chong couldn't control his emotions. On Chaoga's side, the general guarding Tongwan had been waiting for Yin Po Bai and Lei Kai for a long time. Coincidentally, someone from Chaoga came to ask about it. He immediately sent someone to check and found out that they were trapped in the formation and were exhausted. The generals guarding Cloud Pass, Jiepai Pass, and Jishui Pass were the same. They didn't know what had happened and let Ji Chong go. At this point, they could only report the truth. Facing this scene, Emperor Zhou was naturally furious. He originally planned to put Yin Po Bai, Lei Kai, and even the generals guarding the 5 passes in jail. Luckily, Bai Gan and the others pleaded for mercy, saying that Ji Chong was cunning and had the help of an expert. Moreover, it was a troubled time and he needed people. When Ji Chong returned to Shiqi, the most important thing now was to prevent Shiqi from rebelling. It was better to let Yin Po Bai, Lei Kai, and the others make up for their mistakes. But what about Ji Chong? When he returned to Shiqi, he didn't rebel out of resentment. Firstly, it wasn't the right time. Secondly, it wasn't justifiable. Thirdly, the foundation of Shiqi couldn't be compared to the Great Shang. Ji Chong was a righteous person and didn't want to sacrifice himself to kill 1,000 enemies. However, although he didn't rebel against the Shang, he worked harder to govern Shiqi. In order to better govern Shiqi, Ji Chong was thirsty for talents. When he heard that there were talents in Wei River, he personally went there. Therefore, there was the one king of Wei River, Pianxia. Compared to Liu Bei's 3 visits to the thatched cottage, he wasn't inferior at all. Chapter 403. As for Fang Qingshan, after escorting Ji Chong back to West Qi, Ji Chong naturally had to repay him. After all, Fang Qingshan had to express his gratitude to Bo Yikao and his savior, not to mention other things. If it weren't for him, he and Bo Yikao would have died long ago. Such kindness was equivalent to giving him a new lease on life. How could he not repay it? However, Fang Qingshan was an otherworldly expert, and West Qi had nothing to offer in return. Ji Chong thought about it. The only things he could offer were the Book of Changes and the 8 diagrams. Therefore, he made up his mind to explain them to Fang Qingshan in the future. Then he announced in public that Fang Qingshan was conferred the title of King of Zhou Yi, not inferior to King 1. When everyone saw Fang Qingshan, it was as if they saw themselves. Everyone was naturally puzzled by Ji Chang's sudden move, and they were also very unwilling. After all, who would be willing to have such an unknown person on top of their head? However, after listening to Ji Chang's reason, coupled with the fact that Fang Qingshan was in charge of the history of thousands of years, had millions of soldiers in his chest, and was even a Qi cultivator, they were convinced. What about Fang Qingshan? The reason why he went to West Qi to save Ji Chong was to join West Qi and get a share of the profits in the future. Although he had already accepted Bo Yikao as his disciple, he had already earned back his capital. However, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Moreover, the title of king of Shiqi was not simple. Therefore, he agreed after some hesitation. From then on, Fang Qingshan settled down in West Qi. At night, he cultivated unshakably. Fang Qingshan's current cultivation and realm had long been enough. If he wanted to break through to the creation realm, he only needed to comprehend a trace of the law of creation. However, the law of creation was not so easy to comprehend. Compared to the Grotto Heaven realm and the Cosmic Light realm, the law of time and the law of creation were not inferior at all. Didn't you see that Lady Nua's Tao was a natural law of creation? As one of the top laws, the law of creation was no less difficult to comprehend than the law of time and space. Fortunately, in the key of Desolate God that Fang Qingshan obtained, there was a kind of elixir called Regeneration Pill. This kind of elixir was a divine healing medicine. The 9 revolutions' sole elixir among heaven-level elixirs paled in comparison. The reason was that it contained a trace of the law of creation. More importantly, Fang Qingshan had the Tree of World. The World Tree was the origin of all wood. Wood represented life, and it also contained the concept of creation. Therefore, it was not difficult for Fang Qingshan to comprehend the law of creation. After all, breaking through to the creation realm only required some comprehension of the laws of creation. Just like the Grotto Heaven realm and the Cosmic Light realm, it didn't require a deep understanding of the laws of space and time. During the Fang Qingshan, Qi for the Tian, as Qi as you he, Ji as Tian was. Qi, he as he could. It was nighttime. During the day, Fang Qingshan would sometimes go to Jichang to ask about the Book of Changes, but most of the time, he was involved in the construction of West Qi. In his position, he had to make decisions. Fang Qingshan did not want to do nothing. Moreover, at this time, it was not like the future where the people were still very simple. If one stayed in a high position and did nothing, one would definitely be criticized in the future, which would affect Fang Qingshan's share of providence. Most importantly, becoming immortal was also a kind of cultivation. Didn't you see that many experts like to play games in the mortal world? In fact, apart from some personality factors, many of them wanted to experience the life of mortals to train their minds. With Fang Qingshan's experience, he could be said to have made the whole of West Qi take off after he devoted himself to it. Many people said that when Zhong, a senior statesman of 3 dynasties, could govern the country with literature and bring peace to the country with martial arts. But Fang Qingshan was even better. After all, he came from a future and had thousands of years of accumulation. During the 3 Kingdoms period, he was the king of a country. Governing the country and bringing peace to the country was not a strange or difficult thing for Fang Qingshan. If he had not been worried that West Qi still needed Jiangxia, Jichang would not have gone to see Xi to invite Jiangxia. Even if Jiangxia came, he would not have been able to do anything, because at that time, no matter what he did, he would be compared to Fang Qingshan. Everyone had their own preferences. Coupled with the preconceived notions, Jiangxia would have a hard time even with his talent. At that time, it would probably be a lose-lose situation. If Jiangxia could not carry out his work well, Fang Qingshan would also become the target of the clan of enlightenment. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan realized it in time and withdrew it again and again. When he saw that West Qi was about to leave his mark on it, he quickly retreated and asked Jichang to visit the thatched hut 3 times. Then he went to sit cross-legged and brought out Jiangxia, who was fishing. Jichang was very reluctant at first. After all, Fang Qingshan was on his side and had such outstanding ability. But Fang Qingshan explained that he had to focus on cultivation. The reason why he did that was that he did not want to disappoint the Marquis's painstaking efforts. Besides, there was Bo Yikao. If he worked hard, how could he have time to teach him? Hearing this, Jichang reluctantly agreed. After all, Fang Qingshan was right. He was a cultivator and had not become an immortal. It was not worth it to delay his cultivation. Most importantly, he felt a deep sense of guilt towards Bo Yikao. That was why Jichang went to see Shiwei River. Jiangxia was willing to take the bait. As a man of destiny, Jiang was naturally extraordinary. Although Ji Chong thought that Fang Qingshan was better because of their close relationship, he had to admit that Jiang was powerful. After Fang Qingshan made it clear that he wanted to retreat to the second line, Ji Chong felt that choosing Jiang was the second best choice. Fang Qingshan had made such a big noise in West Qi. Jiang was not an ascetic monk, so he naturally had heard about it. He knew that his opportunity was in West Qi. Now that such a strong competitor had appeared, he was naturally thinking about what to do if he joined West Qi. Therefore, although it was difficult at the beginning, he was well prepared. Coupled with Fang Qingshan's endorsement from time to time, Jiang soon integrated into the group. With Jiang participation, West Qi could finally be said to be free and completely get rid of the shackles. The whole vassal state soared. What about Fang Qingshan? As he said, he slowly weakened his influence. He deduced the Book of Changes with Ji Chong, guided Bo Ikao's cultivation, took elixirs, and comprehended the Arcana realm. The so-called Arcana realm was to integrate the will of the heavenly heart. In fact, this point had already been foreshadowed when he was in the Mystery Land. That was the 5th level of the Mystery Land, the Celestial Being realm. Therefore, for Fang Qingshan, this level was easier than the previous creation, time, and grotto heaven. He had long reached the realm. As long as his mana was stronger, breaking through was naturally a piece of cake. He did not need to comprehend the law of creation like the creation realm. Chapter 404. The 5th level of the longevity realm, the creation realm. After breaking through this realm, one could turn stone into gold, water into oil, and the impossible into the possible. They could even refine high-grade Tao artifacts. The turning of stone into gold and water into oil were not divine abilities, but true physical changes. As long as one comprehended the law of creation, breaking through to the creation realm was a piece of cake. Although both of them had the word creation in their names, the difference between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. Creation was just a small change in some laws. Creation referred to the entire world, the endless universe, and the creator of nature. Creation was comparable to space-time, fate, karma, and reincarnation. Therefore, as long as one comprehended a trace of the profound meaning of creation, there would be no bottleneck in the creation realm. After the creation realm was the Arcana realm. The so-called Arcana realm was to calculate the secrets of heaven, be enlightened, understand all things, and be on par with the heavens. At this point, whether it was magic power or magical powers, they had a qualitative change compared to the creation realm. When it came to calculating the secrets of heaven, apart from the Book of Luo and the river diagram, there were very few that could compare to the Book of Changes. Therefore, it was much easier for Fang Qingshan to break through to the Arcana realm than the creation realm. Although he had the pill of creation and the feedback from the world tree, the law of creation was the top law after all. Although calculating the secrets of heaven was also a good law, it was too easy compared to the law of creation. In addition, the author of the Book of Changes explained it to him every day. If Fang Qingshan still had trouble breaking through, it would be a shame. Shiqi, Fang Qingshan's residence, in a secret room. A mirror was suspended in the air. It was the Haoyan treasure mirror. Fang Qingshan sat in the mirror, and the grotto heaven appeared. Flowers fell from the sky, and golden lotuses appeared on the ground. Mysterious sounds echoed in the air, dragons and phoenixes danced, and fine seal characters flowed with dazzling brilliance. The 5 elements circulated, yin and yang alternated, stars shone, and nearly 100 great Daos floated in the air. Of course, at this moment, whether it was the foundation of the 5 elements, the king's space, the venerable's time, or even fate and yin and yang, they all retreated. One suppressed 100. At this moment, the most resplendent was the star law. Golden multicolored light rushed about, scarlet radiance filled the heavens, and boundless brilliance enshrouded the sky. Words condensed in the void, and immortal sounds resonated. The law of stars and the law of 8 trigrams were originally very suitable for divination. There was no need to talk about the 8 trigrams. Whether it was Fushi's innate 8 trigrams or Ji Chang's Hotian 8 trigrams, both could prove this point. As for the stellar laws, he thought about the star observatory and the amethyst dipper divination. Everything needed to be said. At this moment, Fang Qingshan had once again fallen into a state of not having a single thought. Heavenly voices rang out in his mind from time to time. The will of the heavens and the will of the people, the past and the future are all within the grasp of a single thought. At a certain moment, Fang Qingshan's eyes suddenly opened. His eyes were like a starry sky, filled with boundless starlight. Countless karma, calculations, yin and yang, good and bad luck. Apart from the great increase in the power of the star laws, there didn't seem to be any other changes in the cave. But looking closely, one would know that the current cave was very different from before. In the past, although the cave had the 5 elements, yin and yang, time, space, and other laws, and even a trace of creation laws, the truth was that this world was still dead and stiff. This had nothing to do with life. It was completely the difference between intelligence and non-intelligence. In the past, the operation of the cave's laws completely required Fang Qingshan's primordial spirit to guide it. But now, after breaking through to the arcana realm, his own cave, as it rotated, had the ability to calculate, set up formations, and operate automatically. It had the function of changing the seasons naturally. Even without Fang Qingshan, the entire cave would operate confidently. It was just that the speed was different. Sensing some changes in his body, apart from magic power and mystical abilities, Fang Qingshan's lifespan had a qualitative leap again. When breaking through to the creation realm, all the small injuries that Fang Qingshan had suffered in the past that were hard to sense were completely healed, and the lifespan that he had consumed from using the Little Destiny art was completely restored. His lifespan had also reached 88,640,000 years. And after breaking through to the Arcana realm, it had actually reached 99,810,000 years. Compared to the average person, it was more than double. It's time to continue unsealing the seal under the key of the wilderness god. After breaking through to the Arcana realm, the next step was to open a small world and break through to the World King realm. This step was very troublesome for others. After all, treasures that could contain a small world were too rare. If one opened it in the boundless world, it would be even more dangerous. The small world could only be attached to the boundless world and could not be carried around. To separate the small world from the boundless world, the effort needed was no less than opening a world. However, this was not a problem for Fang Qingshan at all. He had already expected this, so he had made preparations in advance. When he was in Shushan, he had planned to obtain the 9 Doubts Cauldron. In terms of quality, the 9 Doubts Cauldron was not better than supreme treasures like the Clear Sky Treasure Mirror or the Zuwu Mirror, but it contained a connate life, chaos nascent embryo. This thing was chaotic, but it contained space-time and various laws. It was the best choice to open a small world. Moreover, if Fang Qingshan could open a world with it and become a world king, not only would the power of the world he obtained be above the immemorial world of the Hongjun Tiandao people, but most importantly, his foundation was not something he could compare with. It was not impossible for him to create a boundless world in the future. However, although his cultivation was higher than his cultivation, Fang Qingshan did not plan to continue breaking through. This was not because his foundation was not solid enough, but he wanted to accumulate experience. Moreover, after his cultivation broke through to the heaven realm, he could open the subsequent seals of the key of the wilderness god. Not only could he obtain more treasures, but the world tree could also continue to devour. The key of the wilderness god was actually a treasure trove with layers upon layers. If the world tree forcefully devoured the key of the wilderness god, the treasures behind would be lost in the void. Therefore, After Fang Qingshan broke through to the cosmic light realm in the Tianwu treasure trove, he did not let the world tree continue to devour the key of the wilderness god. To open the key of the wilderness god, one first needed to be a fated person, whether it was a grand origin source technique, Panwu true blood, or the world tree. However, to open the restrictions of the treasure trove, one needed to be at the paradise realm on the first layer and the cosmic light realm on the second layer. So on and so forth. Now that Fang Qingshan had broken through to the creation realm and heaven realm, he could open 2 layers of the treasure trove. The first layer of the treasure trove was the pure Yang Sea, which was completely formed from pure Yang heavy water. The second layer of the treasure trove was the elixir room. The lowest level was earth rank, and the highest was peerless rank immortal pills. After opening the third layer, it was somewhat different from the previous 2 layers. First, the space of the third layer was a little too small compared to the previous 2 layers. Moreover, the third layer was actually an ancient altar with a radius of 3,000 steps. Chapter 405. Mysterious, simple, and profound, but also a little stiff and lifeless. The ancient altar was densely engraved with many runes. Although Fang Qingshan did not understand the meaning of these runes, he knew what they represented. Puppets. That's right, these runes were the techniques used to refine puppets. Even though Fang Qingshan had never cultivated a similar divine art, he had seen similar things before. Sure enough, at the center of the altar, there were many small figures that looked like witchcraft. Seeing this scene, how could Fang Qingshan not know what these things were? In ancient times, the god race had invaded the black-yellow Great World in order to cut down the world tree. At that time, the Xianhuang Great World was the #1 world in the 3,000 worlds. It was not much weaker than the celestial world. There were many experts there. Taoist primordial chaos, the 3 sovereigns of the human race, immortal supremacy Panwu, and so on. In the face of the god race's attack, they naturally fought back. Panwu Celestial Venerable was one of the primordial 9 venerables. He inherited the mantle of the origin Taoist. His cultivation level was superb and comparable to a heavenly lord. He killed many deity emperors of the celestial race in one go and used the great puppet art, one of the 3,000 great Tao divine powers, to refine all their bodies into puppets and named them desolate gods. The most powerful of these puppets was the desolate god king at the very center of the altar. His cultivation was comparable to a world king. It had to be known that even the sect master of the #1 sect of the profound yellow great world, the High One sect, was only at the world king realm in Hongjun Tiandao. Beside the desolate god king were 80 slightly smaller puppets. Although these puppets couldn't compare to the desolate god king, they were at least at the level of an ancient giant. Fang Qingshan originally thought that the wilderness god puppets would be in the wilderness divine hall. He did not expect them to appear here, which was a pleasant surprise. In fact, the desolate gods were indeed in the desolate god palace. What appeared on the altar was only the life imprint of those desolate gods and monsters that Venerable Panwu had imprinted through the great puppet technique. However, as long as he controlled the altar and the puppets, he would be able to control the desolate god king and the divine beasts. It could even directly summon them from the void like the great summoning technique. But now it was impossible. After all, this is not the immortal world, but the world of gods, which is too far away. Sigh, what a pity. Looking at the altar, Fang Qingshan let out a sigh of regret. It wasn't that these puppets were too weak. It was just that compared to the first 2 floors of the treasury, they weren't as helpful to him. Although the desolate god puppet was quite good and the desolate god king had a world king realm cultivation, Lin Ming was still a world king. But to Fang Qingshan, it wasn't very useful. Didn't you see that he rarely used the heaven-devouring devil emperor? If it wasn't for the fact that some things were too dangerous, he probably wouldn't even have summoned Xiongqi. To Fang Qingshan, cultivation was not a form of enjoyment. There were many things that could only be engraved in his heart after he had personally experienced them. Therefore, These puppets were of little value to Fang Qingshan. They were inferior to Luo Shuaibei and the others. Although they were not of much use, they could at least provide him with wish power and help him refine his treasures. However, after thinking about it, the desolate god king seemed to have regained his consciousness, and Xian Kuei, Wu Ming, and other divine beasts were living beings. Fang Qingshan let out a sigh of relief. Anyway, no matter what Fang Qingshan thought, the third floor was the puppets. Fortunately, the great puppet art is also one of the 3,000 great Daos. If I learn it, I can also learn by analogy and increase my foundation. With the activation of his dermic power, the runes of the puppet on the altar began to move. Streams of runes mixed with his dermic power, and the mysterious intent contained in the runes entered his mind. Fang Qingshan did not immediately experience it. After refining the altar and obtaining the great puppet art, he put it behind him. He would slowly sort it out when he had the time. Following that, Fang Qingshan crossed the altar and walked to the fourth floor. Heaven's will and human heart. I am supreme. Chaos seal open. Fang Qingshan grunted softly and pointed from afar. The chaos crystal wall in front of the fourth floor of the treasury was like a door separating into two sides. Fang Qingshan stepped in. As soon as he stepped into the fourth floor, the first thing that entered his eyes was actually a densely packed crowd, numbering in the hundreds of thousands. In a trance, it did not seem like he had arrived at a treasure trove, but a small town, giving Fang Qingshan a fright. Fortunately, he soon sensed that these people were not humans, but spirits. Yes, these hundreds of thousands of spirits were not humans, but the weapon spirits of Dao weapons. Hundreds of thousands of weapon spirits of Dao weapons. Even though Fang Qingshan was used to seeing the world, he could not help but breathe heavily. Even if they were all inferior-grade Dao weapons, it was still impressive. Furthermore, the Dao weapons here were not just inferior-grade Dao weapons. There were also medial-grade and superior-grade Dao weapons. Although there were no supreme-grade Dao weapons, there were some superior-grade Dao weapons that had been passed down from ancient times. Compared to Fang Qingshan's Great Chaos Thunder Sword and Pure Yang Flying Sword, Fang Han's 7-kill sword was not inferior at all. How many years has it been? 10,000 years? 100,000 years? Someone finally came in. This person must have obtained the Panwu Heavenly Venerate's teachings and the Rage God Key. It seems like he wants to subdue us. A mere Heaven Realm kid wants to subdue us? What wishful thinking. Kill him, and we will be free. Kill him, and we will be able to go to the legendary treasure realm. It was not bad for Dharma treasures to be psychic, but once a Dharma treasure had an artifact spirit, it was easy for accidents to happen. Therefore, none of the Dharma treasures that Fang Qingshan used had an artifact spirit. It was unknown if these artifact spirits were a test left by the Panwu Heavenly Venerate, or if they wanted to rebel without the suppression of the Panwu Heavenly Venerate. When Fang Qingshan came in, these people were discussing something as if they were having a meeting. When they saw Fang Qingshan, they were about to make a move. However, countless voices and countless Dharma treasures converged to form a torrent that surged towards Fang Qingshan. Golden spears and armored horses were like tigers that could devour thousands of miles. Treasure light soared into the sky, and a murderous aura filled the air. If Fang Qingshan could not stop them, he would be crushed into pieces by these Dao weapons. What a pity, what a pity! Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan could not help but shake his head. Although he was only in the Heaven Realm, he was now at the peak of the primordial Chaos Daoist. He might not be able to suppress him, but he could stand on equal footing with him. Moreover, although the Dao weapons that attacked Fang Qingshan were imposing like the Milky Way falling from the 9 heavens, they were basically low-grade Dao weapons. There were only a few mid-grade Dao weapons, and none of the high-grade Dao weapons were used. How could such an attack do anything to him? Rise. Seeing that the torrent of Dao weapons was about to sweep over, Fang Qingshan activated the Tai 5 smokes net on his body. Streams of 5-colored smoke and clouds soared into the sky, forming a 5-colored sky, isolating the space and protecting Fong Qingshan within it. Chapter 406. Jiang Lushi was a rock. Fong Qingshan was like a reef in a big tide. No matter how much water and waves hit him, his foundation could not be shaken. Not to mention hurting Fong Qingshan, even the defense of the Tai 5 smoky net could only create a few ripples. Tai 5 smoky net. It was a famous defensive treasure in the world of Shushan. After being smelted into the 5-cloud peach flower miasma by Fong Qingshan and refined by the devouring sky demon emperor and the others from time to time, the defense of the Tai 5 smoky net could be ranked among the best among the peerless Tao artifacts. As for Fong Qingshan, he cultivated the heaven and earth 5 elemental true energy. His magic power was rich to begin with, and he also had the world tree and celestial lake to provide him with pills. Compared to a world king, chaos realm, or pseudo-immortal, his magic power far surpassed them. With enough magic power, not to mention the torrent of low-grade Tao artifacts, even high-grade Tao artifacts would be useless, unless Fong Qingshan did not have enough magic power. But how was that possible? Sabers, spears, swords, sticks, halberds, balls, beads, bracelets, needles, all kinds of dazzling things. There was also a set of Tao artifacts that formed an array. They completely overwhelmed Fong Qingshan and attacked with all their might. Fong Qingshan did not make a move and let them attack. Even so, after 15 minutes, an hour, and half a day, Fong Qingshan was still brimming with energy. As for the Tao artifact river, it was like a flood that had opened the floodgates. In the beginning, it was naturally filled with vigor, but as time passed, it naturally calmed down. It was full of vigor, but on the third, it was exhausted. Okay, enough is enough. Fong Qingshan glanced at the Tao artifact, the winding river stream. Since I have the key of the desolate god, I will be your master in the future. Just because you are our master? Wishful thinking. Before Fong Qingshan finished speaking, he was interrupted by a loud shout. Then, a primordial ape that looked like Sun Wukong smashed down at Fong Qingshan with a mace that looked like a golden cudgel. Another black dragon unleashed a boundless black wind and spat out millions of water thunders. It worked together with the ape to attack Fong Qingshan. The demonic ape chaos god staff was a void immortal demon monarch Ape Masahiro's personal treasure. It had existed for 200,000 years. Tens of thousands of years ago, Ape Masahiro was defeated by immortal venerate Panwu. The demon ape chaos god rod was taken away and became immortal venerate Panwu's artifact. Black dragon great wind flag. 60,000 years ago, it was refined by a world king realm master, Venerable Gale. All of them were high-grade Tao artifacts. At this time, those high-grade Tao artifacts also began to lose their cool and began to attack. All living creatures yearned for freedom. These Tao treasures were no exception. It would have been fine if they didn't have the chance, but now that they had the chance, who wouldn't want to be a serf and be their own master? Thus, seeing that the river of low-grade Tao artifacts couldn't do anything to Fong Qingshan, the high-grade Tao artifact that had been hiding on the side and observing couldn't help but take action. Unfortunately, it was still useless. Unless the hundreds of thousands of treasures on the 4th floor, whether it was low-grade or high-grade Tao artifacts, all exploded together, there was no way they could do anything to Fong Qingshan. Although Fong Qingshan wasn't injured, his patience was exhausted. He originally thought that since these Tao artifacts had artifact spirits, they could be considered living creatures. He wanted to show off his strength so that they would be willing to submit. Unfortunately, it was self-defeating, and these Tao artifacts became even more powerful. You're courting death. Fong Qingshan coldly snorted. A third eye seemed to open between his eyebrows. It was the clear sky treasure mirror. In an instant, ripples appeared on the surface of the mirror, and a faint sound could be heard. It was above-board and majestic. A misty blue light shot out, like the silver splendor of the moon, enveloping all things. Freeze! Following that, Fong Qingshan let out a soft shout. Be it the river of low-grade Tao artifacts, the demon ape chaos god rod, or the Black Dragon Wind Flag. All the high-grade Tao artifacts were frozen in mid-air. How is this possible? Another peerless Tao artifact. Moreover, it's a spatial attribute treasure that isn't any weaker than that defensive treasure. Including the key of the Desolate God, this person actually has at least 3 peerless Tao artifacts. Seeing Fang Qingshan take out another peerless Tao artifact, the Clear Sky Treasure Mirror. Some of the artifact spirits that had been hiding in the dark couldn't help but gasp. Although there were more than 10 peerless Tao artifacts in the Tianwu treasury, including the Black Bottom Title Banner, the Emperor Flame Dragon Cauldron, the Mortal Life Seal, and the Zhu Wu Mirror. But don't you know what kind of person Venerable Panwu is? He was an ancient almighty who inherited the legacy of the origin Taoist, and his cultivation was comparable to a heavenly lord. But what about Fang Qingshan? He was merely a heaven realm cultivator, yet he was in possession of 3 peerless Tao artifacts. It didn't matter how he obtained them, whether the artifacts recognized him as their master, or if it was a gift from someone else. It was enough to shock these Tao artifacts. I'll give you one more chance. Submit to me, or else. After Fang Qingshan froze the river of artifacts, he didn't make a move immediately. Instead, he issued a final warning to the remaining artifacts. Although he didn't say it out loud, the threat in his words was clear. Do you want to submit? Submit. He already has 3 peerless Tao artifacts. It's not embarrassing for us to submit. I don't think so. Did you notice? His peerless Tao artifacts don't have artifact spirits. What? Then what should we do? Let's wait and see. As soon as Fang Qingshan's words fell, the remaining high-grade and semi-peerless Tao artifacts muttered to themselves, but they were still hesitant. If that's the case, don't blame me. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan didn't hesitate anymore. The sea of bitterness has no bounds. Repent, and you'll be saved. Lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Fang Qingshan sat cross-legged in the void, muttering to himself. It sounded like he was murmuring, but in the ears of the artifact spirits, it sounded like a bell ringing loudly like thunder. A boundless lotus sea appeared, with 12 flowers blooming. On top of each flower, there were Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Vajras, Arhats, and so on. Above him, there was a Bodhi tree swaying, 8 division heavenly dragons circling, and heavenly maidens scattering flowers. Great art of salvation. In order to subdue these Tao artifacts, in order to settle things once and for all, Fang Qingshan used the great art of salvation to purify all the artifact spirits. How powerful was Fang Qingshan's current cultivation? How could a mere low-grade Tao artifact be able to withstand it? Moreover, they were being suppressed by the Clear Sky Treasured Mirror. However, at every moment, there would be a batch of low-grade Tao artifacts that were converted. They bowed towards Fang Qingshan with sincerity. All of them were like eminent monks who had achieved enlightenment. Damn it, this is the Buddhist great art of salvation. He's trying to purify us completely, turning us into puppets. He's so vicious. Quick, let's attack together. He won't let us go. Seeing Fang Qingshan's actions, all the Tao artifacts were shocked. If they were really purified, it would be no different from being dead. Chapter 407. Anyone who was enlightened by the great salvation art would completely forget about their irreconcilable enmity and wholeheartedly serve the person who enlightened them. As for the freedom that these artifact spirits yearned for, they could forget about it. In the beginning, they weren't even willing to submit to Fang Qingshan, let alone be converted. Therefore, when they saw Fang Qingshan make such a move, all the weapon spirits knew that if they didn't act now, they would be finished. Thus, the various high-grade Tao artifact spirits that had been sitting calmly on the fishing platform all made their moves. There was a scarlet jade sacred sword forged by the Divine Mother of Tianqi. There were treasures that belonged to the perfected Lord Yuan, one of the 10 Pope Masters of the Zoomer divine religion. It was a magic treasure belonging to a powerful figure from the Saha world. There were a total of 9 semi-extreme grade Tao artifacts and 132 upper-grade Tao artifacts. 3,100 sets of mid-grade Tao artifacts. While the number of these Dao artifacts was not as great as the river of low-tier Dao artifacts from before, in terms of quality, they were far superior. Not only were their auras even more majestic, their prowess was also incomparable to that of low-tier Dao artifacts. Feudal struggle. Fang Qingshan felt the dying counterattack of the remaining Dao artifact, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but curl up into a faint mocking smile. Truly, he refused to give up until he reached the Yellow River and refused to turn back until he hit the southern wall. Fang Qingshan didn't even bother to look at them. He just focused on using the Great Salvation technique to expiate. Looking at this scene, the attacking half-peerless Grey Dao weapon and upper Grey Dao weapon were infuriated. Wasn't this looking down on them too much? Following that, they were overjoyed. Fang Qingshan's nonchalance had given them a chance. Although he had the Tai 5 smoking net, a peerless Grey defensive Dao artifact on top of his head, he was not able to withstand it. However, Hong Yu and the others believed that they would be able to break through the defense if they attacked with all their might. Furthermore, Fang Qingshan was busy expiating the low-grade Dao artifact. Wouldn't they be courting death? After killing him, not only would he be able to regain his freedom, but he would also be able to obtain 3 supreme grade Dao artifacts. These supreme grade Dao weapons did not have weapon spirits. If they were to be refined, it would definitely be a great supplement for these weapon spirits. A semi-supreme grade Dao weapon could even be upgraded to supreme grade immediately. However, the idea was beautiful, but the reality was always so unsatisfactory. Just as the various Dao artifacts were about to land on Fang Qingshan, the eyes of all the weapon spirits suddenly blurred. Then, they saw a figure appear in front of Fang Qingshan. He didn't release any aura. He just stood there, but it was as if he had become one with the world. Seeing this person who had suddenly appeared, the hearts of all the weapon spirits suddenly skipped a beat. They had a bad premonition, but the arrow was already on the bowstring, so they had no choice but to release it. Therefore, they didn't have time to think too much and continued to attack without hesitation. Feudal struggle. Qiangqi's expression was exactly the same as Fang Qingshan's. Qiangqi dared to make a move against him. How audacious. Even if he had not recovered his immortal cultivation, it would be a piece of cake for him to deal with these Dao artifacts, let alone now. Freeze! Qiangqi didn't even activate his magic treasure. He just waved his long sleeves and said one word. In an instant, the entire space was quiet, as if time and space had been frozen. Whether it was a mid-grade Dao artifact, a high-grade Dao artifact, or even a half-supreme Dao artifact, they were all imprisoned in midair like the previous low-grade Dao artifact. The faces of all the weapon spirits still maintained the same expression. Congratulations, young master. Congratulations, young master. After freezing all the Dao artifacts in midair, Qiangqi turned his head and congratulated Fang Qingshan as if nothing had happened. His cultivation had broken through 2 levels in succession and reached the heaven-seated realm. The next level, the World King realm, was not a bottleneck for Fang Qingshan. It was only a matter of time before he broke through. 2 more layers of the Key of Desolate God had been opened. Not to mention that the World Tree could devour the source of the 2 layers of the Key of Desolate God to speed up its growth. Just the treasures in the 2 layers of the treasure vault were a huge profit. Although he could only see the puppets in the 3rd layer of the treasure vault, he could summon them at any time after returning to the immortal world. Moreover, if those people who had subdued puppets and god beasts were his enemies, when he fought, he could control the altar and let them turn against him. That would be a very good feeling. As for the 4th layer of Dao artifacts, they were even more precious. Not to mention the 9 half-supreme Dao artifacts. They had already accumulated to the limit. They only needed a lucky chance to break through to the supreme grade. Compared to the Star Emperor Dragon Bed and the Dishi Scepter, they were much better. The remaining tens of thousands of Dao artifacts, after being enlightened, were not inanimate objects. Many of these weapon spirits were comparable to ancient giants. With so many experts praying for him at the same time, not to mention the increase in luck, just the wish power provided was immeasurable. Same to you. Same to you. Seeing that Xiongqi's cultivation had recovered to this level, Fang Qingshan's eyes also lit up, and he had a plan in his heart. Ever since he opened the second layer of the key of the Desolate God, Fang Qingshan rarely used the elixirs ranging from low-grade to supreme grade. Most of them were used by Qiongqi to recover his strength. This time, while Fang Qingshan broke through the creation realm and heaven-seated realm, Qiongqi's cultivation had also recovered to the earth immortal realm and was moving towards the heaven immortal realm. With Qiongqi's cultivation, Fang Qingshan could also start planning the next step of his plan. Although the world of gods was not as good as the ancient desolation period, where spiritual treasures and spiritual roots were everywhere, Fang Qingshan still knew about some treasures. It was just that he needed strength to get his hands on them. Although Qiongqi's cultivation had not fully recovered, it was enough for Fang Qingshan to plan for that treasure. On the other hand, the magic treasure that Fang Qingshan couldn't forget was naturally the treasure fall coin that had displayed extraordinary brilliance during the God Rank War, and it was similar to Kong Xian's 5-color divine light. The treasure fall coin was a supreme grade, innate spiritual treasure. It was in the shape of a copper coin with a square hole, and there were wings on the left and right sides. There were Hongjun Tiandao inscriptions on it. It could fall on all spiritual treasures below the Khanate cardinal treasure. It could also calculate the mysteries of Hongjun Tiandao. The only problem was that this treasure could not fall on weapons. Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao did not know this and died under Zhao Gongming's whip in the end. Another thing that could not be compared to the 5-color divine light was that this treasure could only fall 3 times a day. This was also a disadvantage. Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao were Wui Mountain's unfettered cultivators. As for their cultivation levels, they were ordinary. According to Fang Qingshan's guess, they should be between Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals. If not for the treasure fall coin, this kind of cultivation level could not be compared to the direct disciples of Chan School and Jie School. Even the third-generation disciples could beat them up. When Fang Qingshan came to the world of gods, he wanted a plot for this treasure. However, at that time, it was not the right time. Firstly, it was urgent to plot against Ji Chong and Bo Yikao. Secondly, Qiongqi's cultivation level had not recovered to a certain level. Although Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao's cultivation levels were not high, they were immortals after all. They also had the treasure fall coin. At that time, if Fang Qingshan wanted to deal with the two of them, he would not be able to. Chapter 408. Everything was ready except for one last thing. But now the time was ripe. First of all, he had completely integrated into West Qi and gained a firm foothold. Not only had he become an equal king, but he had also taken Bo Yikao as his disciple. Based on these 2 points, the final apotheosized fate would be enough for him to wake up smiling. The most important thing was that Xiongqi's cultivation had recovered. Even though it had yet to completely suppress Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao, it had already recovered. Although it had not completely crushed Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao, as one of the 4 great ferocious beasts, it was not invincible within the same realm. Even if they had the treasure fall coin, a supreme grade, primordial spiritual treasure. Unfortunately, it was like casting pearls before swine. Moreover, this treasure had another drawback, which was that it could only drop 3 treasures a day. And what Fang Qingshan lacked the least now were treasures. In terms of quality, apart from a few supreme grade Dao treasures, the rest could not compare to primordial treasures. But this did not mean that primordial treasures were definitely more powerful than acquired ones. In terms of lethality, the numerous Dao artifacts in Fang Qingshan's possession were in no way inferior to the treasure fall coin. After all, even though they were of high quality and possessed great might, they weren't precious treasures of slaughter, and they were only supportive magic treasures. Even if Fang Qingshan used his treasures to smash it, he could break the treasure fall coin first. Without the treasure fall coin, how could Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao be a match for Qiongqi? And even if they risked their lives to stop Qiongqi, and the other wanted to capture the leader first, Fang Qingshan was not someone to be trifled with. Not to mention the universal chessboard in his hand, he could use the life-saving talisman that perfected bliss had given him. As Xiongqi's cultivation recovered, this trump card was no longer as important. Even so, this talisman could severely injure anyone below the heavenly immortal level, not to mention Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao, the two elders of Shushan. But Fang Qingshan was not such a domineering person. First of all, he would use peaceful means before resorting to force. He did not lack treasures now. If he could use a few Dao treasures to exchange for the treasure fall coin in Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao's hands, it would be a win-win situation. But if they did not appreciate his kindness, then they could only blame themselves for being unlucky. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Even if he didn't make a move, the two of them would inevitably end up in the hands of others in the future. Naturally, he couldn't hold it in any longer. After all, it was the treasure fall coin, a supreme grade, connate numinous treasure. Even the sea-calming divine pearl, a top-notch connate numinous treasure that could defeat the 12 golden immortals of Chan's school, had fallen. Not to mention the saints, at least people like Randang coveted it, let alone Fang Qingshan. Even though he had the chessboard of heavens and the world tree in his hands, he still had the world tree. If it could grow, it wouldn't be the slightest bit inferior to the treasure fall coin. In terms of preciousness, it would even surpass the treasure fall coin. In fact, as long as the all-heaven chessboard had enough karmic luck, it wouldn't be an exaggeration for it to grow into a connate cardinal treasure. However, the premise was that you had to grow up first. The world tree was a top-notch spiritual root that was not weaker than the 10 primordial spiritual roots of desolation. If it grew, it would not be as good as a primordial supreme treasure. Among the primordial spiritual treasures, only the likes of the map of mountains and rivers could be compared. But now, not to mention the map of mountains and rivers, the world tree might not even be comparable to many top-notch high-grade Dao artifacts. If he wanted the world tree to grow at the fastest speed, he had to devour the remains of the previous world tree, such as the half of the world tree's trunk in the Void God Realm. But in the Void God Realm, not to mention the current Fang Qingshan, even if Qiongqi fully recovered its cultivation, it would be like throwing a meat bun at a dog. So, including the celestial chessboard and the world tree, none of them could compare. Fang Qingshan immediately bid farewell to Ji Chong, saying that he was going to travel and look for opportunities. Then, he headed straight for Wui Mountain. Wui Mountain, Taoism had 36 grotto heavens and 72 blessed lands. Wui Mountain was ranked 16th. The Wui Mountain Cave had a circumference of 120 miles. It was called True Ascension Xintian and was a rare holy land for cultivation. But he didn't know whether it was because the name of the grotto heavens and blessed lands was not well known or because of other reasons. But such a good place was actually occupied by Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao, two rogue cultivators. Speaking of which, these two people could be considered to be rich in fortune. Not only did they occupy a grotto heavens and blessed lands like Wui Mountain, but they also had a treasure like the treasure fall coin. Logically speaking, this was a proper protagonist's fate. Not to say that it was domineering, but at least it was a choice for a while, and they could establish their own sect. Unfortunately, the two of them were living miserable lives. It was a waste of such good cultivation conditions and treasures. The reason for this was because their fortune was too rich and their fate was too shallow. They could not be nourished, and they had no fortune to enjoy it. However, it was also because of this that it happened to benefit Fang Qingshan. Otherwise, if these two people cheated all the way, it would not be Fang Qingshan's turn to pick up the scraps. Although the greater teleportation technique could not compare to the Chan School's Golden Light and the Golden Crow Clan's Rainbow Transformation technique, it was still one of the 3,000 great ways of the immortal world, and it contained the laws of space. Although it was a different world, it was still an essential magical power for home travel, killing, and robbing. The space of the world of gods was naturally not comparable to the space of the immortal world. Therefore, even the greater teleportation technique could not tear open the space barrier and could only use the laws of space. Even so, it took a certain amount of time for Fang Qingshan to arrive at Wui Mountain. He saw the white clouds unintentionally coming out of the distant peaks, the water unintentionally flowing into the Bishi, a few bamboo swaying in the wind, and the fragrance of thousands of fallen flowers. There were vines with branches and intertwined old pines. There were 3 or 5 black cranes and 6 or 7 elks. There were few people in the clear void, and the quiet Tao heart was born. Sure enough, it was a blessed land of immortals. Great if we occupy it. Seeing this, Qiongqi's eyes flashed with greed, and he licked his lips. This is human nature. When you see good things, you want to take them for yourself. However, this is only a flash of thought. The reason why intelligent creatures are intelligent creatures is that they have restraint. Not to mention Qiongqi. When he saw Wui Mountain, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but feel excited. What is an immortal? There are people and mountains. When it comes to Taoism, the first thing that comes to mind is the immortal style and the famous mountains and rivers. The 4 elements of cultivation are wealth, companionship, method, and land. Although the land is ranked last, it can be ranked as one of the most important, which shows the importance of the land. Moreover, Wui Mountain is different from other cultivation areas. This is the location of one of the 36 heavenly caves of Taoism. Not only is it full of spiritual energy, but it also occupies the destiny of heaven and earth. Just as Fang Qingshan sensed, above the void of Wui Mountain, auspicious light, auspicious qi, auspicious clouds, golden lamps, red, yellow, blue, and white, dragons and phoenixes in different forms. All sorts of strange phenomena appeared, up and down, left and right, illuminating the heavens. Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao have been safe for so many years after obtaining the Treasurefall coin because of the heavenly cave of Wui Mountain. Once they leave Wui Mountain, they will immediately face disaster. Chapter 409. It's Time and Fate. After Fang Qingshan and Qiongqi set foot on Wui Mountain, they strolled around, feeling the rising purple qi and the abundant spiritual light. Their hearts were filled with emotions. What a waste of resources! It was no wonder that Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao would face tribulations during the great God-confirming tribulation. They had such a good territory, yet there was no improvement. Not to mention others. Even the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven itself would feel aggrieved. Before long, Fang Qingshan and Qiongqi arrived at a platform. There was a pine tree welcoming the guests, a stone table, and 2 stone stools. 2 Taoists, one in green and one in red, sat on the stone table, playing chess idly. Sensing the arrival of Fang Qingshan and Qiongqi, Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao were also very surprised. Especially Qiongqi, whose entire body was filled with a towering murderous aura, shocking one's heart. Fortunately, after sensing for a while, they found that Qiongqi's cultivation was only at the earth immortal level. Although it gave them a lot of pressure, it was not too ridiculous. Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao could not help but heave a sigh of relief. As for Fang Qingshan, he was not even an itinerant immortal, so they did not take him seriously at all. Greetings, Taoist. I wonder what Taoist name is, and where are you from? Why have you come to Wui Mountain? Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao stood up and bowed to Qiongqi, smiling. However, they did not notice that Qiongqi had always been half a body behind Fang Qingshan. At this moment, he only bowed back and did not say anything. The one who spoke was Fang Qingshan. He was not angry at Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao for ignoring him. After all, his cultivation was so low. I am Fang Qingshan, and this is Qiongqi. Greetings, Taoist. We come from Shiqi, and the reason why we came to Wui Mountain was because of the guidance of fate. At this moment, Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao trembled and finally looked at Fang Qingshan seriously. They did not expect that the one in charge of Fang Qingshan and Qiongqi was actually this unremarkable man who had not even become a loose immortal. At the same time, he finally noticed some details. For example, Qiongqi was always half a body behind Fang Qingshan. For example, Qiongqi was always respectful to Fang Qingshan. This was not just a superficial phenomenon. It was from the inside out, as if he was born to be like this. When they looked at Fang Qingshan, they finally realized that Fang Qingshan was different from the rest. First, it was temperament. Temperament was the first impression people had. Fang Qingshan sits on the celestial chessboard and travels between many worlds. In the immortal world, he has become the master of an immortal sect. Even in the world of gods, his cultivation is low. Because of his foresight, he also gives people a sense of confidence. Then, although he is ignored by the two, he does not show the slightest displeasure. This is broad-mindedness. Lastly, and most importantly, what made Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao feel exceptionally strange was that Fang Qingshan, a person who was not even a loose immortal, actually gave them the feeling that he was not weaker than Xiongqi in the slightest. There was a kind of dangerous aura lingering around him. Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao looked at each other. No matter how they look at it, they can see that Fang Qingshan is extraordinary. Greetings, Fang Daoist. Just now, we two brothers were impolite. Xiao Bao said apologetically. I am Xiao Bao, and this is Xiao Shun. We two brothers are qi cultivators of Wui Mountain. After a pause, Xiao Bao pretended to ask casually, I don't know what Daoist means by guiding us by chance. Fang Qingshan and Xiongqi looked at each other and chuckled. I feel that there is a spirit treasure in this mountain that is destined to be with me. Spirit treasure? Hearing these two words, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao shuddered. They looked at each other subconsciously and saw a trace of unease in each other's eyes. I wonder if Daoist knows what kind of spirit treasure it is. This treasure is in the shape of a round copper coin with a square hole. There are wings on both sides. There are Hongjun Tiandao inscriptions on it. Apart from weapons, all treasures below, Khanate cardinal treasures, are called treasure fall coins. Seeing that Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao were still putting on a show, Fang Qingshan could not help but say this in a meaningful tone. Although they had already guessed it, when they really heard the words treasure fall coins, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao still could not help but change their expressions. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Everyone knew this. Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao had attained the Tao during the era of the Heavenly Emperor. Although their cultivation was not much, they still had some knowledge. After all, old people who did not die were thieves. They had always kept the treasure fall coins a secret. Moreover, they did not even leave Wui Mountain when they were free. This was because they were afraid that the news would leak and attract the covetous eyes of others. Although Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao had not been able to fully refine the treasure fall coin, they knew that it was a rare Khanate spiritual treasure. Khanate spiritual treasures. Since ancient times, not to mention itinerant cultivators, even many disciples of major sects did not have them. Yet, the two of them were actually able to possess it. This made Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao excited and worried at the same time. Later on, when Zhao Gongming, Dipong, and the others came to Wui Mountain, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao had used a treasure fall coin. Firstly, the tribulation Qi had blinded their minds and caused them to lose their vigilance. Secondly, they thought that Chan's sect was a righteous sect and would not covet their Dharma treasures. Most importantly, they wanted to form a good relationship with Chan sect through this. Even if they could not join Chan's sect, it would be good to be able to receive some guidance. Unfortunately, they had underestimated the treasure fall coin and the human heart. Putting these aside for now, they had not expected that after so many years of painstaking effort, the news would still be leaked in the end. Indeed, there was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. Fortunately, it was Fang Qingshan and Xiongqi who had come. They were still within the scope of what they could deal with. As long as they dealt with the two of them, everything would return to normal. After all, they did not believe that Fang Qingshan and Xiao Bao would tell the news of the Khanate's spiritual treasure to others. Thinking of this, a fierce glint flashed in Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao's eyes. With a move of their feet, they surrounded Xiongqi and Fang Qingshan. At the sight of this, Fang Qingshan could not help but sigh to himself. He had only revealed a hint of the news, and Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao had actually wanted to kill him. Although he would probably have gone overboard if he had been the one to do this, Fang Qingshan was still unwilling to accept it when others treated him like this. What? What do you two Taoists mean by this? What do you mean by this? Hee hee. Xiao Shun laughed savagely. You coveted our Dharma treasures and came to our doorstep. You actually ask us what we mean? What do you mean by that? Since we've already said this much, let's get straight to the point. In the face of Xiao Shun's accusations, Fang Qingshan's expression did not change in the slightest. He said calmly, I'm determined to get the treasure fall coin. However, I can give you two some compensation. Compensation? Haha. What kind of compensation do you think can compare to the treasure fall coin? Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao could not help but scoff at Fang Qingshan's words. Chapter 410. Indeed, even though Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao did not know the true origins of the treasure fall coin, just the fact that it was a connate spiritual treasure was enough to determine its value. Even though Fang Qingshan looked extraordinary, they did not believe that he would have a connate spiritual treasure. Even if he did, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao did not believe that Fang Qingshan would use it to exchange for the treasure fall coin. The treasure fall coin was indeed not bad. However, it was neither an offensive nor defensive treasure. More importantly, this treasure could not be used on weapons. At the same time, it was sold in limited quantities every day. Therefore, they did not believe that anyone would use a connate spiritual treasure to exchange for the treasure fall coin. If it was not a connate spiritual treasure, how could anything else be comparable to the value of the treasure fall coin? Therefore, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao did not believe Fang Qingshan's words at all. Perhaps the things I offer are indeed not comparable to the treasure fall coin. In response to Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao's mockery and ridicule, Fang Qingshan nodded his head in a nonchalant manner. However, the treasure fall coin in the hands of the two of you would be throwing pearls before swine. More importantly, I believe that the things I offer in exchange will definitely interest the two of you. Furthermore, from a certain perspective, these things are even more valuable to the two of you than the treasure fall coin. Oh, we'll have to take a good look then, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao said in an unfriendly tone. As you wish. Fang Qingshan chuckled and tossed out 3 balls of light with a wave of his hand. Even though the treasure fall coin is not bad, there's only one of it at the end of the day. But there are 2 of you. Fang Qingshan pointed at 2 of the balls of light and smiled. There are 2 acquired treasures here. Even though they cannot be compared to the treasure fall coin, one for offense and one for defense, they are pretty decent. Even though they cannot be compared to the equipment of the disciples of the major sects, they can be said to be second to none among the itinerant cultivators. Most importantly, the 2 of you can have one each. The 2 treasures that Fang Qingshan took out were the semi-supreme Grey Dao artifacts that he had just obtained from the key of the desolate god. One of them was a pagoda, while the other was a treasured sword. One for offense and one for defense. Looking at the 2 shining magical treasures, it would be a lie to say that they were not tempted. However, no matter how extravagant Fang Qingshan's words were, to use these 2 magical treasures to exchange for the treasure fall coin, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao would never agree to it no matter what. Looking at the expressions on Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao's faces, Fang Qingshan chuckled softly. You guys were able to resist the temptation of the 2 semi-supreme Grey Dao artifacts. I wonder if you guys will be able to resist the temptation of the next item? This item is a heavenly book, and its target is a true immortal. Fang Qingshan did not give too much of an explanation, merely stating what this item was and what its goal was. After that, he looked at Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao calmly. Indeed, just as Fang Qingshan had expected, the moment his words fell, the previously unsmiling Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao both breathed heavily, their eyes shining brightly. Wealth, companionship, laws, and land. The poor were scholars, the rich were warriors. Money was very important, and even money could make the world go round. However, to itinerant cultivators, the most precious thing was not money, but techniques and legacies. Techniques could not be easily imparted. This was a real thing there. Therefore, itinerant cultivators were basically doing very badly. Unless one had the life of a main character, blessed by luck and favored by the heavens and earth, it was practically a daydream to want to counterattack. Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao had attained the Tao during the Emperor's era. How long had it been since then? Their cultivation levels were still not at the heaven immortal level. One must know that Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao were different from other itinerant cultivators. They had the Treasure Fall coin, a supreme-grade connate spiritual treasure, and they had the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven, a holy land for cultivation. However, even so, through the passage of time, their cultivation levels were still not at the heaven immortal level. One could imagine how difficult it was for itinerant cultivators. Then, look at the third-generation disciples of Chan school. The Jade Emperor was dissatisfied that the three sects did not listen to his orders and complained to the Purple Cloud Palace. Thus, there was the Great God-Conferment Tribulation. In the Great God-Conferment Tribulation, Jie and Chan were the main characters. The 10,000 immortals of Jie school came to the court. It would not matter if 1,000 or 800 people died. On the other hand, there were only 12 golden immortals among the core disciples of Chan school. Together with the old man of the South Pole, Yin Zhongzi, Randang, and the others, there were only dozens of them. Not to mention how many died, the death of one would be a serious injury. Therefore, the heavenly lord of primordial beginning thought of a way to let someone take the tribulation in his place. Then, Chan school opened the sect and accepted the third-generation disciples. Apart from Yang Jian and Ling Zhuzi, the other third-generation disciples, like Yin Jiao and Yin Hong, were mortals. In just a dozen years, their cultivation levels had caught up to Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao. Apart from the problem of resources, the most important thing was the legacy. If there were legacies and Tao techniques, how could Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao have wasted so many years in a grotto heaven like the Wui Mountain? Putting aside Golden Immortals and Zenith Heaven Immortals, there was at least one Heaven Immortal and Perfected Immortal. Now, the legacy was right in front of them. How could they not be excited? Just as Fang Qingshan had said, to Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao, this heavenly book was indeed more important than the Treasure Fall coin in a certain aspect. On the path of cultivation, wealth, companionship, technique, and land were the four most important elements. However, they were still just external objects. The most important thing was still one's own Tao. This did not mean that other methods were not important, but one could not put the cart before the horse. Legacy, and it was a legacy that led directly to perfected immortals. Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao believed that Fang Qingshan would not lie to them about this. Fang Qingshan did not lie to them. This heavenly book was actually the result of Fang Qingshan combining the heavenly book of intercourse of flesh and some other mysterious books of Isha. Therefore, Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao were conflicted. Since they wanted to have this legacy, they would not have exposed a Treasure Fall coin in order to curry favor with Chan school in the future. However, at the same time, they did not want to lose the Treasure Fall coin. After all, it was a connate numinous treasure. A man's heart was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Greed blinded Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao's eyes. An idea flashed through their minds. Since they wanted both, it was not impossible. As long as they killed Fang Qingshan and Xiong Qi, they might be able to get even more. Pandora's box had been opened. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. Of course, the main reason why Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao had such thoughts, which seemed to Fang Qingshan and Xiong Qi, were like moths flying into a flame, was because Fang Qingshan and Xiao Bao were far too deceptive. Xiong Qi was an earth immortal. Fang Qingshan was not even an itinerant immortal. Even if these two had some tricks up their sleeves, when faced with Xiao Shun and Xiao Bao, who were also earth immortals and possessed connate numinous treasures, as long as they dealt with them appropriately, anyone would be willing to take the risk. After all, it was not just a matter of profit. They also had the geographical advantage. Unfortunately, Xiong Qi was not just an earth immortal. Although he had not fully recovered, his methods were definitely not something the two of them could compare to. While Fang Qingshan's cultivation was low, his methods were similarly endless. As long as he wanted to, even heavenly immortals would fail miserably, much less earth immortals. Chapter 411. My heart is towards the bright moon, but the moon shines on the ditch. Seeing the greed and ferocity in Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao's eyes, the black gas between their eyebrows, and the tribulation aura above their heads, Fang Qingshan could not help but shake his head. Heaven's net is wide, but it never escapes. Indeed, there were famous people on the God's investiture list who could not escape. Although the great God investiture tribulation was caused by the Jade Emperor's complaint, and the disciples of the Jie school and Chan school were killed, it affected all the cultivators in the world. As long as the people of the Taoist sect had not broken through to demi-saint, they were in the tribulation. However, as long as one was lucky, had a lot of merit, or had a powerful backer, such as the great Taoist Master Xiandu of Rin School and Yin Zhongzi of Chan School, even if someone wanted to plot against you, they would not be able to do so. The Battle of the Nine Bends Yellow River Formation almost wiped out the entire Chan School, but Yin Zhongzi was safe and sound. Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao were people of the Taoist sect. Most importantly, they did not deserve their position. They had the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven and the supreme grade primordial spiritual treasure, the Treasure Fall coin, but they had no way of defending it. Their own luck and fate were low, and under the pressure of the Treasure Fall coin, they were on the verge of collapse. Be willing, there will be gains. This time, Fang Qingshan came to exchange for the Treasure Fall coin. Although they might lose this treasure, it was not necessarily a bad thing for them. First of all, even if Fang Qingshan did not come, this treasure would be taken away by others in the future. People like them, who had no legacy, no cultivation, and no backer, could not protect this treasure at all. Moreover, although Fang Qingshan also coveted this treasure, compared to Dipankara, he was still a man of conscience. Not only did he compensate them with 2 acquired treasures, one for offense and one for defense, he also gave him a legacy that could lead to true immortality. Not to mention the 2 Dao treasures. Although they could not compare to the Treasure Fall coin, they were enough for Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao. Moreover, they did not need to be afraid to use the treasures openly, even though they had them with them. They did not need to worry about being spied on and getting killed. What was more important was the legacy. If Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao were not able to acknowledge him as their master, there was no way they would be able to obtain the subsequent cultivation methods. If they wanted to break through, even if they waited until the Deva's 5 declines, they might still not be able to break through. As for acknowledging him as a master, Jie school was fine, but he did not know why they did not go. However, after the god confirmed it, Jie school would collapse and the Buddhists would prosper. They would probably look down on them. As for the other large sects, the most important thing was one's background and aptitude. If the 2 of them had this, they wouldn't have wasted so many years. Most importantly, if they exchanged the Treasure Fall coin with Fang Qingshan, then the 2 of them would be able to escape the tribulation. This was similar to how the Chan sect took in the 3rd and 2nd generation disciples to overcome the tribulation. Moreover, once they escaped the tribulation, then even if they didn't have any inheritances or subsequent cultivation techniques, their cultivations would still undergo a qualitative breakthrough. A great tribulation was also a great opportunity. This was also the reason why many people threw themselves into the tribulation, even though they knew that there was a slim chance of survival. This was because as long as they could get through it safely, the rewards would be worth the effort. Unfortunately, the will of the heavens and the will of the people. In the Great Tribulation, their wills were blinded by the tribulation energy, which meant that their temperaments were not up to par. This tribulation was fated to happen. Kill. Just as Fang Qingshan was sighing with emotion, Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao made their move. Those who attacked first had the advantage. Those who attacked later would suffer. They did know the principle of catching their opponents off guard and striking with lightning speed. It was a pity that they had underestimated Fang Qingshan and Qiao Bao, as well as overestimating themselves. Because they knew that Fang Qingshan was the one in charge between the two of them, Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao did as Fang Qingshan had previously thought. They planned to capture the ringleader first in order to capture the bandits. As long as they could capture Fang Qingshan, Qiongqi would have to hold back from attacking, and their chances of winning would increase by 30%. Qiao Bao took a step forward and came to Qiongqi's side. His feet stepped on the 7 stars, his body walked on the 8 trigrams, his hands formed yin and yang, and he chanted. In an instant, the entire Wui mountain moved. Even a lion would use its full strength to catch a rabbit. Although they had never seen Qiongqi in action and did not know what he had up his sleeves, as a cultivator, their instincts were still very accurate. Qiongqi gave the two of them a lot of pressure, so Qiao Bao used his ultimate move the moment he attacked. Although the two of them were lone cultivators, they had their own trump cards to protect themselves. After all, they had lived in Wui Mountain for countless years. The geographical advantage was something that everyone knew how to use. Although it was impossible for them to mobilize the power of the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven with their knowledge, they could still borrow some of its power. For a moment, an invisible force fell from the sky, like a necklace emerging from the ground. The branches spread out, combining the sky and the ground, forming an inescapable net, completely trapping Qiongqi. Qiongqi did not care at first. He had also lived through the ancient times and was even suppressed in the tomb of the human emperor. At his peak, he was even an immortal golden immortal. How could he care about 2 lone cultivators with the cultivation of earth immortals? Little did he know that Qiao Bao would really give him a surprise. The Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven was one of the 36 Taoist grotto heavens. Naturally, it did not have an undeserved reputation. Although Qiao Bao borrowed some of its power because it was a local creature, the suppressive force was not to be underestimated. As if space was locked, an invisible pressure instantly locked Qiongqi in place. Damn it! Although Qiongqi had been enlightened by Fang Qingshan, it was still one of the 4 great ferocious beasts of the ancient times. A leopard could not change its spots. This time, it was made a fool of by someone that it did not take seriously at all. How could not be angry? Kill! Qiongqi flipped his hand and took out a sword. It was crystal clear like jade and emitted a trace of a rainbow. Qiongqi slashed out with the sword. In an instant, it was as if day and night had changed. At the moment of dawn, a beam of light pierced through the darkness and illuminated the earth. The red jade sword. Yes, the Dharma treasure in Qiongqi's hand was not Fang Qingshan's all-heaven sword. After all, it was Fang Qingshan's Dharma treasure. It was no big deal for Qiongqi to use it often. In the past, there was no other way. Now that there was an extra choice, Fang Qingshan naturally took the all-heaven sword back. The red jade sword was one of the 9 semi-supreme Grey Dao artifacts in the 4th level of the Key of Desolate God. It was one of the best Dao artifacts. As long as he added some refining treasures and refined it for a while, it would definitely become a supreme Grey Dao artifact. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out, and the entire Wui Mountain seemed to tremble. The invisible force that imprisoned Qiongqi, including the inescapable net, was naturally broken. Damn it! Seeing this scene, Qiao Bao's expression suddenly changed. Although he knew that Qiongqi was not to be underestimated, he did not expect that he had still underestimated it. A fierce look flashed in Qiao Bao's eyes. He hit his chest and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. In an instant, he aged a lot. With essence blood as the guide, it is as solid as gold. Qiao Bao shouted. In an instant, the inescapable net that had been broken by Qiongqi's sword was restored to its original state. Moreover, there seemed to be an even more powerful force coming from the sky and the earth. Chapter 412. Just as Qiao Bao made his move to trap Qiongqi, Xiao Shun had also arrived before Fang Qingshan. You'd better surrender. Although Fang Qingshan was the one in charge, his cultivation was not enough. Therefore, Xiao Shun thought that victory was in his grasp and said confidently to to Fang Qingshan. Greed is the original sin. Fang Qingshan shook his head. Do you know? I bitterly regret pressing the golden thread year after year and working hard for others. I originally came to save you, but unfortunately, you cut off my only chance of survival. What a pity, what a pity, what a pity. Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, Xiao Shun was also shaken for a moment, as if he had missed a great opportunity. But very quickly he calmed down. He thought that Fang Qingshan's words were just a cover to shake his mind and find a chance to escape. Of course, the most important thing was that compared to the unpredictable future, he was more willing to grasp the present. If he could kill Fang Qingshan and Xiao Shun, not only could he continue to hide the news of the treasure fall coin, at the same time, he could obtain the treasures and cultivation techniques in their hands without exchanging them for the treasure fall coin. Taking out the legacy of a true immortal right in front of them. Wasn't this forcing them to rob them? Looks like you are unwilling to surrender. Since that's the case, I'll personally take action and send you on your way. Xiaoshan also felt Xiongqi's outburst at the side, and Qiao Bao blocking him with all his might. Knowing that time was of the essence, he did not waste any more words. He stretched out his hand and spread his fingers slightly, performing a capturing technique that enveloped Fang Qingshan. As long as he could get Fang Qingshan in his hands, Xiongqi would be nothing more than a grasshopper at the end of the autumn. Is this the will of the heavens? What can you do? Fang Qingshan sighed. Since he refused a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit and actually wanted to murder for his wealth, then he could not blame him for being ruthless. The path of cultivation was the survival of the fittest. Go! Fang Qingshan said calmly and flicked his finger. A golden talisman flew out and ignited as soon as it came into contact with the wind. In the blink of an eye, a blinding light burst forth. Then, a boy suddenly appeared in midair. He was about 11 or 12 years old, and his makeup was as smooth as jade. He was wearing a light yellow short shirt, and there was a golden ring around his neck. He was barefooted and looked like a good and talented boy in front of Guanyin Bodhisattva. At first glance, people could not help but feel happy. But what was strange was that the boy was carrying two scabbards that were as tall as him. One was Tiandu, the other was Mingi. His nondescript attire was rather amusing. However, at this moment, the person in question, Xiao Shun, felt a hint of regret flash through his heart. It was because he had already been locked onto by the boy and confined to the spot. He couldn't dodge and could only face the attack head-on. Although he knew that Fang Qingshan was not a simple person, whether it was his temperament, Xiongqi's attitude towards him, or even their sudden inspiration reaction, he knew that Fang Qingshan was not a simple person. However, for the sake of the inheritance, for the sake of the treasure fall coin, they still acted without any hesitation. He had not expected that Fang Qingshan would actually use such a powerful talisman right off the bat. It had not even exploded, but it already made him feel as if his heart was being squeezed. All the hairs on his body stood up, and his brows twitched, as if a great calamity was about to befall him. But it was too late for regrets. The boy in midair looked at him expressionlessly. Then he formed a sword with his fingers and pointed into the distance. There was a sound of waves. The Tiandu Mingi sword on his back flew out with a whoosh, like a dragon rising into the sky. The sword Qi was like a dragon, fast as a rainbow. In what seemed like a thousandth of a second, he had already arrived before Xiao Shun. Damn it! Seeing that the sword light was about to land, his skin seemed to have already been pierced through, and fresh blood flowed. Xiao Shun knew that once he was struck by the sword light, he would definitely die. Go! At the juncture of life and death, Xiao Shun finally used their trump card, the treasure fall coin. He opened his mouth and spat out a copper coin, which was round on the outside and square on the inside, flew out. It had a pair of wings on it, which expanded with the wind. In an instant, it had transformed into a protective screen, standing in front of Xiao Shun. What a guy! Although the treasure fall coin was said to be able to fall all treasures below connate cardinal treasures, but could only fall 3 times a day. Weapons could not fall. At the same time, intangible attacks could not fall. The Tiandu Mingyi Sword Qi was merely an attack bestowed by the talisman. Naturally, the treasure fall coin could not be restrained. However, Xiao Shun was also a talent. Although the treasure fall coin was only a support treasure, unable to attack or defend, he had thought of another way. Relying on the quality of a connate spiritual treasure, he could use the treasure fall coin as a shield. Dang! The metal and the talisman clashed, and the sound of a huge bell rang out. Barf! The treasure fall coin was sent flying, and Xiao Shun spat out a mouthful of blood. The treasure fall coin was not a defensive treasure after all. Although it was tough, it did not completely defend against the talisman's attack. Therefore, Xiao Shun and Qiao Bao, who were its hosts, were both heavily injured. There was only one treasure fall coin. Although Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun were on good terms, when faced with a connate spiritual treasure, neither could trust the other. Therefore, the two of them refined it at the same time, taking turns to keep it. This was to prevent any accidents, but now it had caused both of them to be injured at the same time. Fortunately, the attack of the talisman was blocked by Xiao Shun in the end. Unfortunately, the chain reaction was that Qiao Bao could no longer achieve his goal of trapping Qiong Qi with all his might. "Young master, are you all right?" After Qiong Qi broke free, he did not retaliate immediately. Instead, he came to Fang Qingshan's side and asked somewhat anxiously. Even though he knew that Fang Qingshan had countless tricks up his sleeves, he was Fang Qingshan's Dao protector after all. He had not been able to block the enemy's attack completely, causing Fang Qingshan to personally take action. This was his incompetence. "I'm fine." Fang Qingshan shook his head, but his eyes were fixed on the treasure fall coin without blinking. "Come." Fang Qingshan reached out and performed the mixed elements Qi 5 elements Great Qi Na hand, grabbing towards the treasure fall coin. However, the treasure fall coin was different from other treasures. It was a top-notch connate spiritual treasure. Even though it did not have a weapon spirit, its spirituality was still extraordinary. Naturally, it could not be suppressed by a single grab from Fang Qingshan. Money makes the world go round. Suppress. Right at this moment, Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun shouted at the same time. They formed seals with their hands and muttered to themselves. In an instant, both of their hair turned white, and they looked old and feeble. As for the treasure fall coin, it shone brightly and shot out a beam of light into Wui Mountain. There was a loud boom. The entire Wui Mountain began to move. Moreover, the trembling this time was more than 10 times stronger than when Qiao Bao had used his blood to summon it. In an instant, the void above Fang Qingshan and Qiong Qi's heads fluctuated. It was as if a breeze had brushed past the surface of a lake, causing ripples to form. Following that, a cave suddenly materialized from illusion. The sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, and land could all be seen clearly. It directly pressed down on Fang Qingshan and the other young man. In a daze, Fang Qingshan thought that he had performed the chess piece of the heavens, or that Su Xiui had used the Earth Emperor's book to attack again. Chapter 413. Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun had obtained the treasure fall coin a long time ago. It was unknown whether it was due to insufficient opportunities or insufficient cultivation. Although they had obtained the treasure fall coin, they were unable to fully refine it. 50 great Daos, 49 heavenly evolutions. Therefore, connate cardinal treasures had 49 restrictions. Inferior grade connate spiritual treasures had 12 restrictions at most. Middle grade connate spiritual treasures had 24 restrictions at most. Superior grade connate spiritual treasures had 36 restrictions at most. Supreme grade connate spiritual treasures had 48 restrictions at most. Treasure fall coin was a supreme grade connate spiritual treasure that contained 40 restrictions. Hongjun Tiandao emphasized balance. The stronger the existence, the more restrictions there were. For example, powerful races such as dragons and phoenixes needed thousands or even tens of thousands of years to reach adulthood, not to mention the difficulty of reproduction. It was the same for connate spiritual treasures. The stronger they were, the more restrictions there were, and the harder it was to refine. Even with Qiao Bao's and Xiao Shen's cultivation, they had only managed to refine 3 restrictions over the years by relying on their painstaking efforts. Even so, they had also comprehended a mystique from it. Treasure Fall Coin. Although it was the strongest and most famous for its treasure fall, one could not ignore its main body of money. Money could move the gods. Money could make the world go round. This was the mystique of money that Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun had comprehended. And this mystique was actually similar to Fang Qingshan's Little Destiny art. It was actually an equivalent exchange, using some precious things, lifespan, luck, or other things in exchange for powerful attacks. Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun had used their lifespan to exchange for the suppression of the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven. Treasure Fall Coin. Money can make the world go round. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan was not shocked but delighted. Good lord, everyone knew how powerful the Treasure Fall Coin was. But everyone's understanding of it stopped at Treasure Fall, just like Kong Xian's 5-color divine light. But they had forgotten that money itself was also very powerful. Money was not omnipotent, but it was impossible to not have money. At the same time, Fang Qingshan sighed inwardly. He was still a little too careless. Although he knew that Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun were just minor characters in the great God-confirmant tribulation, that was a myth after all. Now it was real. Since that was the case, who wouldn't have 1 or 2 life-saving methods? Of course, this was also because Fang Qingshan wasn't strong enough. Otherwise, in the original trajectory, how could Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun, who possessed such formidable supernatural powers, still be unable to avoid a trip to the divine seal decree? Fortunately, Tao was the foundation and Dharma was the end. No matter how powerful a divine ability was, it still needed a strong foundation to support it. At the end of the day, Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun were only Earth immortals. What's more, they were still in the era of the Heavenly Emperor. As long as one was not an eternal golden immortal, they would suffer the Deva Decay 5. Immortals were not immortal, nor did they have a lifespan. It was just that their lifespans were much longer than ordinary people's, so they thought that they wouldn't die. Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun had wasted too much time, and they didn't have much longer to live. Even without the great God-confirmant tribulation, he wouldn't be able to last long. Therefore, the amount of power that could be borrowed was not that great. Furthermore, the restrictions of the Treasure Fall Coin that they had refined were too few, and the conversion efficiency was too low. Therefore, although this attack was powerful, it didn't give people the feeling that it was unstoppable. Struggle before death. Facing this attack from Qiao Bao and Xiao Qi, Fang Qingshan only raised the Tai 5 smoky net to protect himself. He knew that unless he used the universal chessboard, he naturally wouldn't be able to withstand such an attack. Fortunately, with Qiongqi's cultivation and the means that he had taught him, there shouldn't be any problems. Indeed, facing the suppression of the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven, Qiongqi sneered and shook his sleeves, like Zhun Yuanzi's universe in the sleeve. Of course, he didn't want to take the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven. Instead, a river flew out of his sleeves. The light of treasures shone in all directions, and the killing intent was shocking. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, axes, hooks, tridents, towers, bells, cauldrons, furnaces, books, and doors. There were all kinds of them, and they were in a myriad of forms. This was a river completely formed by Dharma treasures. Yes, these were the tens of thousands of Dharma treasures that Fang Qingshan collected after opening the 4th level of the key of the Desolate God. At this moment, all the Dharma treasures, including semi-supreme, upper, middle, lower, and even supreme Dharma treasures, exploded at the same time. Moreover, it was controlled by Qiongqi, an earthly immortal expert. Behind him was the Heaven Lake, the pure Yang Ocean, and the infinite Dharma. Qi pierced through the mountains and rivers, and the Milky Way reversed. Even with Fang Qingshan's experience, he was stunned when he first saw so many Dharma treasures, let alone Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun. In their entire lives, Other than the treasure fall coin, they didn't even have a single inferior grade acquired spiritual treasure. They had never seen so many Dharma treasures before. Even though they were acquired, the number was shocking enough. Moreover, wasn't there a saying that quantitative change leads to qualitative change? Wong. The river of Dharma treasures collided with the Wui mountain grotto heaven. Time and space seemed to have stopped. Then, whether it was Fang Qingshan, Qiong Qi, or Chao Bao, Xiao Shun's vision darkened. Not only could he not see anything, he could not hear anything either. The loudest sound, the loudest sound, the loudest sound. When he opened his eyes again, he saw a thin crack in the void above Wui Mountain, although it disappeared very quickly. One should know that this was the great world of gods that could accommodate sages and demi-sages. One could imagine how stable the space was. However, this collision was actually able to break the space and form cracks. One could imagine how powerful this attack was. If it was anyone else, they would never have thought that this was caused by a few people who weren't even heavenly immortals. However, thinking about the tens of thousands of acquired treasures and supreme-grade, innate spiritual treasures, as well as the fact that they had sacrificed their lives, it didn't seem that surprising anymore. The Dharma treasures were scattered all over the ground. Many of the weaker, inferior-grade Dharma treasures were almost destroyed. However, the Wui Mountain Grotto heaven that was summoned through the treasure fall coin shook and disappeared like a bubble. How is this possible? How is this possible? It was unknown whether it was because the attack that he had traded half of his life for did not have the corresponding effect, or because he didn't expect Qiong Qi and Xiao Shan to have so many acquired treasures. However, Chao Bao and Xiao Shun only had the time to let out a sigh before they lost their lives. It wasn't because Fang Qingshan wanted to get rid of the root of the problem, but because of the backlash from the Tao arts. They had attained the Tao during the era of the Heavenly Emperor, and their lifespans might not even be as long as Fang Qingshan's. Moreover, in order to summon the Wui Mountain Grotto heaven, they had sacrificed half of their life. In the end, their mystique was broken, and the Tao arts backfired. The two of them didn't even have the chance to catch a breath, and they died. Fortunately, the two of them were famous people on the gods' investiture roll, so they didn't have to worry about their souls dissipating. At least they could still become righteous gods of the heavenly court in the future. As for getting out of this situation and restoring himself, if he did not have the help of an elite to break through the Grand Salvation Art, he would at least need to cultivate to the Grand Luo realm. Moreover, Fang Qingshan's cultivation base had yet to reach the level of an Earth Immortal. Otherwise, he would have long been crushed by the Celestial Gate if the Buddhist mystic arts were so easily dealt with. But why would such a person care about Qiong Qi? As for the other method, which was to rely on one's own willpower to resist, it worked the same way unless Qiong Qi's cultivation was much higher than Fang Qingshan's. For example, your cultivation level has recovered to that of a golden immortal, while Fang Qingshan is still at the same place. But that was also impossible. Although he had obtained the various immortal pills from the key of the desolate god, it was not enough to completely restore Qiong Qi's cultivation base. Moreover, Fang Qingshan's cultivation base was also increasing by the day. Therefore, if Qiong Qi wanted to restore himself, unless Fang Qingshan completely transcended on that day, it would be impossible for him to do so for eternity. This was only possible with the help of Taoist Qiong Qi. Fang Qingshan smiled as he received the treasure fall coin. Being able to serve young master can more or less lessen my sins. It's also a blessing that I've cultivated for 3 lifetimes. Qiong Qi said with a humble expression, "There is not a single trace of the violence of the 4 great ancient beasts." Fang Qingshan shook his head and ignored Qiong Qi's words. Now that he had obtained the treasure, he naturally wanted to refine it impatiently. It was just that Fang Qingshan's cultivation was inferior to Chao Bao and Xiao Shun. In fact, it was far inferior. The two of them had spent countless tens of thousands of years of painstaking effort to refine 3 restrictions, but it was as difficult as ascending the heavens for Fang Qingshan to refine the Treasurefall coin in a short period of time. Fortunately, it was not as if he did not have a shortcut. There are 3,000 great Taos, and fate is the most important. I communicate with fate, and it bestows me with boundless power. Within the myriad heavens, fate is everywhere. There is nothing that can escape the restraints of fate, and the Treasurefall coin is no exception. My orders are the will of the heavens. My orders are fate. Everywhere I go, everything is within my control. Fang Qingshan chanted and instantly burned 100,000 years of his lifespan. He executed the little destiny art and borrowed the power of fate to refine the Treasurefall coin. 1. A vast, mysterious, ancient, and honorable power seeped out from the void. It was mysterious and profound. It was indescribable, inexplicable, untouchable, and untouchable. Fused with Fang Qingshan's powers, it instantly wrapped around the Treasurefall coin and invaded the restrictions bit by bit. The restrictions of connate spiritual treasures, especially those of supreme-grade connate spiritual treasures, were not that easy to refine. Fang Qingshan originally thought that by borrowing the power of fate and burning 100,000 years of his lifespan, he could at least refine 2 or 3 restrictions. Little did he know that even one restriction was a little difficult. Actually, this was no exception. After all, this was a connate spiritual treasure, and the restrictions contained connate mysteries. The fact that Xiao Bao and Xiao Shun could cultivate to the earth immortal level without any legacy was due to the 3 restrictions of the Treasurefall coin. Moreover, this was the apatheicized world and not the eternal world. Although the power of fate was similarly supreme, it was not supreme. At most, it was on par with space-time and karma. Naturally, the effects were greatly reduced. Fortunately, he could refine one restriction and keep it in his body. The 4 heavenly book runes on the Treasurefall coin flashed brilliantly. The wings on its back flapped and instantly disappeared between Fang Qingshan's eyebrows. There were 7 treasures in Fang Qingshan's Naiwan Palace between his eyebrows. The most important and fundamental was naturally the heavenly chessboard, followed by the world tree, then the key of the god of rage, the heavenly swords, the Hao Ian treasure mirror, the 9 suspicions cauldron, and the Tai 5 smoke net. Among them, the heavenly chessboard occupied the core position, like a star in a galaxy, and the other treasures revolved around it. The world tree floated above the heavenly chessboard. Some of its roots were rooted in the opened world passage, some were deep in the void, and some were wrapped around the key of the god of rage. As for the heavenly swords, Hao Ian treasure mirror, the 9 suspicions cauldron, and the Tai 5 smoke net, they formed a circle around the heavenly chessboard. When the Treasurefall coin flew in, other than the heavenly chessboard, even the world tree waved its branches and leaves, rustling as if to welcome it. The key of the god of rage, the heavenly swords, the Hao Ian treasure mirror, the 9 suspicions cauldron, and the Tai 5 smoke net immediately expressed their allegiance. The Treasurefall coin first greeted the celestial chessboard, as if it was paying its respects to a mountain. Then it nodded at the world tree. Ignoring the celestial sword and the other treasures, it flew straight up to the world tree and began to circle around. Chapter 4:15. After the Treasurefall coin entered Fang Qingshan's sea of consciousness, it suddenly shone brightly, and a profound and indescribable profundity shot into Fang Qingshan's soul from the internal restrictions. This was the same as the world tree's inheritance after it grew up. It was none other than the innate great Tao that Fang Qingshan had used the minor destiny art to refine the coin of Treasurefall's restriction. This was also the most precious aspect of connate numinous treasures. In fact, many acquired spiritual treasures were not inferior to connate spiritual treasures. In fact, some acquired spiritual treasures were even more powerful than connate spiritual treasures. Not to mention the postnatal merit treasures like the heaven and earth mystic yellow exquisite pagoda and the primordial heaven measuring ruler. Guangxingzi's sky-throwing seal, Three Sky Fairy's golden scissors, and Taishang Laojuan's King Kong bracelet were all treasures that few primordial spiritual treasures could match. But why were Khanate numinous treasures still so precious? So many people flocked to it like ducks? Besides being able to sever the three corpses, most importantly, natural spirit treasures were born from the heavens and the earth, and they contained boundless fortune. So long as one refined the restrictions within the natural spirit treasure, one would be able to obtain these profundities. For example, the treasure fall coin in Fang Qingshan's possession contained the grand Tao of money. Perhaps the reason he was able to drop treasures was because of the extended effect of money. Along with the innate profundity contained within the restriction, another piece of information arrived. It was related to the birth of the treasure fall coin. It turned out that this object was the spirit treasure of the Wui Mountain Grotto. It recorded the specific location of the Wui Mountain Grotto, the method to open it, and the method to refine it. This was a pleasant surprise. Fang Qingshan did not have time to comprehend the Tao of money contained in the innate restriction. He hurriedly called out to Qiongqi and followed the restriction provided by the treasure fall coin to the Wui Mountain Grotto heaven. This place was not far from the platform where Chao Bao and Wang Chong were playing chess. After walking for a quarter of an hour, they arrived. However, what was strange was that the spiritual energy here was thin, and it looked desolate. In the Seal God world, this kind of place where even birds wouldn't shit was something that living beings wouldn't pay attention to. Divine objects conceal themselves. It was the same for the Grotto Heaven. Back then, Chao Bao and his companion were only able to find this place because they had stayed in the Wui Mountains for a long time. When Fang Qingshan arrived, he formed a seal with both hands and danced in the air. Spells flew out from his hands like fluttering butterflies. 1-2. Till a total of 81 hand seals were formed. The runes condensed in midair to form the word open, which was branded in the void in front of him. Buzz. With a loud bang, it was as if the gates of heaven had been opened. In the air, the space squirmed, and a door condensed. It was simple and exuberant, and it fully displayed the tranquility and inaction of Taoism. The runes were engraved and filled the celestial sect of wonders. Auspicious light shrouded the area. Auspicious chi rose. Dragons and phoenixes were carved, tigers crouching and dragons coiling. It was grand and elegant. Following that, the door spat out a flight of stairs that followed the void to the feet of Fang Qingshan. It was neither gold nor wood, neither copper nor iron. There were dense patterns on its surface, and auspicious light and auspicious energy coiled around it, overflowing with immortal energy. Fang Qingshan and Qiongqi looked at each other and stepped forward. Not long after, they arrived in front of the door. Looking inside, they saw a world floating within. With one step, it was as if they were stepping on air from the edge of a cliff. Their bodies turned into a shooting star and fell straight down. Fortunately, Fang Qingshan and Qiongqi were not ordinary people, so they naturally would not be frightened. They focused and thought quietly. Not long after, they felt dizzy. When they opened their eyes again, they were already in a different world. The pavilion rose up from the mountain, and it shone brightly. The ribbons were filled with the Milky Way, and the light contained the jade dew. Faint clouds covered the shadow, and the void embraced reincarnation. The valley was cold and quiet, and the mountain sky was sorrowful at night. But he saw birds and butterflies playing with each other, flowers, and 1,000 rocks like a painted screen. The clouds were green and ready to rain, and the water was dark and smoky. What a good celestial sect of Taoism. As expected of the 36 celestial caves of Taoism. Seeing it once is better than hearing about it 100 times. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Fang Qingshan had been to the golden immortal palace of the emergent sect, exquisite paradise, and Timu treasure vault, but compared to this Wui mountain cave, which was nurtured by the heavens and the earth, there was a huge difference. Most importantly, this celestial cave of Wui Mountain not only retained innate vitality. It must be known that after ancient times, innate vitality began to transform into postnatal spiritual energy. Except for a few celestial caves that still retained innate spiritual energy, other places could no longer see a trace of it. More importantly, this celestial cave actually contained the profound meaning of the world. Fang Qingshan could clearly perceive the Dao marks of Hong Jun Tiandao. However, this kind of Dao marks was very shallow. If Fang Qingshan hadn't obtained hundreds of the 3,000 great Daos in a mortal world, he might have ignored it. He only thought that it was easier to cultivate here, and it was easier to concentrate. Good. Feeling the mystery here, Fang Qingshan's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said good 3 times. His cultivation had broken through the heaven-seated realm, and the first step was to break through to the World King realm. The World King opened a world. Fang Qingshan had already prepared the primordial innate spiritual embryo to open a world. He also obtained the Great World Technique from Star Emperor, which was the most suitable method to open a world. Now, if he could break through to the World King realm in Wui Mountain Cave and let the world he opened absorb the innate mystery of the Celestial Cave, then the potential of his world would be greater. However, this was not urgent. Now, it was better to refine the world-suppressing steel of Wui Mountain Cave and completely control this time. Fang Qingshan followed the guidance of the treasure fall coin and came to the center of Wui Mountain Cave. He saw that there were mountains here, forming a valley. From a distance, it looked like a treasure bowl. What surprised Fang Qingshan was that in this celestial cave, in addition to the treasure fall coin, there was another treasure. It was also an innate spiritual object, but the grade was a little lower than the treasure fall coin. In the valley, there was a towering tree. Its roots were rooted in the earth, and its head touched the sky. It blocked out the sun, and its roots were intertwined. What was most surprising was that the leaves of this tree were actually copper coins, similar to the treasure fall coin. The difference was that it had no wings, and its aura was much weaker. Money tree. High-grade, innate spiritual root. What a pity. Seeing this item, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but feel pity for Qiao Bao and the other person. They were born at the wrong time. Whether it was the treasure fall coin or this money tree, their true power could only be displayed when the great Tao of money was carried forward. Although there was a concept of money now, it had not been circulated. Therefore, the treasure fall coin and the money tree were not famous at all. The treasure fall coin was a bit better. After all, it was a magic treasure that could fall into people's hands. But the money tree was miserable. It could not be eaten, nor could it be used. It was completely useless. This was also why Qiao Bao and the other person allowed it to stay here, even though it was an innate spiritual root. It was tasteless, but it was a pity to throw it away. It was completely useless. Chapter 416. Wui Mountain, inside the Grotto of Heaven, under the treasure bowl, under the money tree. Fang Qingshan used the treasure fall coin to transmit his mana into the world-suppressing steel bit by bit. This item was not like a connate numinous treasure like the treasure fall coin. It was just equivalent to a key. As long as there was the correct way to open it, it was very easy to refine. But once it was refined, it would not be easy for others to snatch it away, unless one relied on the mana realm that far surpassed the original owner to forcefully take it away. But this method was not easy either. If the original owner was an earth immortal, the person who took it away needed to be at least a grand heavenly realm. If the original owner was a golden immortal, the person who took it away could not be done by ordinary quasi-sages. As for the second method, it was to wait for the original owner to die and the world-suppressing steel to become an ownerless item. Fang Qingshan used the second method. Qiao Bao and Xiao Shun both died, and this world-suppressing steel became an ownerless item. Therefore, it was very easy for him to refine it. In less than 15 minutes, Fang Qingshan successfully refined the world-suppressing steel. Not only did he completely control the Wui Mountain Grotto Heaven, he even obtained a thick amount of destiny. It was not inferior to obtaining the treasure fall coin. This might be because Fang Qingshan had not completely refined the treasurefall coin. Also, the Tao of money had not appeared in the world yet. But more importantly, it was because this grotto heaven was different from other grotto heavens. It was one of the 36 grotto heavens of Taoism, occupying a portion of destiny. If it was in the past, Fang Qingshan would definitely be overjoyed. But now, he could not care about destiny, because he was prepared to open up a world. Once he opened up a world, he would not rely on external objects. Although it would cost more, once the world advanced, he could also obtain great benefits. More importantly, compared to humans, worlds had a longer lifespan. Not to mention opening up a major kiliacosm. Even a minor kiliacosm was enough for a lifetime. At that time, if Heaven's Will was difficult, he could still borrow the grotto heaven to preserve his life, Tao transforming into Hongjun Tiandao. Let's not talk about that for now. Fang Qingshan didn't even look at the money tree. He picked a place at random, and with a shake of his hand, he released the Tai 5 smokes net and the clear sky treasured mirror at the same time, enveloping the surroundings. He also had Xiongqi stand guard to prevent any accidents. Although this was the Wui Mountain Grotto and there were no outsiders here, it was better to be safe than sorry. After doing all this, Fang Qingshan had a thought. He opened his mouth and spat out the 9 suspicions cauldron. It flew out and grew in size before landing in front of him. Then he patted the strange beast on the lid, and with a rumbling sound, the lid split open, revealing a sea of resplendent starlight. In an instant, it was as if a bright moon had risen into the sky. This was the chaotic Khanate Chi embryo. The 9 Doubts cauldron was different from the treasurefall coin. Even though it was a very formidable artificial spirit treasure, it had been completely refined by Fang Qingshan a long time ago, and the chaotic innate Chi embryo was naturally no exception. Composing himself, Fang Qingshan took a step forward. He didn't know if Fang Qingshan had shrunk or if the primordial chaos innate Chi embryo had grown. As soon as Fang Qingshan got close to him, he was swallowed. After entering the chaotic innate Chi embryo, he saw that it was sometimes chaotic and blurry, as if the world had yet to be created and all living things had yet to be born. At other times, it was strange and dazzling, like a mirage, like the boundless thousand worlds, colorful and colorful. Fang Qingshan patted his forehead, and the heavenly gate cloud light appeared. It was as clear as water and as translucent as jade. It slowly circulated and let out waves of crashing sounds. A blurry essence spirit sat on it, holding the all-heavens chessboard in its hand. On its left was the treasurefall coin, and on its right was the world tree. Creation of the world, creation of all living things, restoration of origin, return to one, great world technique, open. Fang Qingshan took a deep breath and shouted softly. With a swoosh, he pulled out the all-heavens sword and slashed at the chaotic chi in front of him with all his might, as if Pangu was splitting open the sky. Buzz! The entire chaotic innate chi embryo trembled. Following that, all of the chaotic energy surged into the heavens, all of it erupting. It was earth-shattering, earth-shattering. All heavens 5 elements chess. The storm of chaos was about to strike Fang Qingshan. Fang Qingshan, on the other hand, had a calm expression on his face. There was no change in his expression, and he did not take out a defensive treasure either. Instead, he used a divine ability. Rays of brilliance of different colors rose under Fang Qingshan's feet and spread into the distance, crisscrossing in all directions. In an instant, it turned into a chessboard, echoing with the celestial chessboard above Fang Qingshan's head. The All-Heavens 5 Elements chess was a divine ability that Fang Qingshan had come up with using the sprightly Megaplexus Heaven as a reference, and the All-Heavens chessboard as a precious treasure. Grand heavenly immortals were eternally independent of space and time. Fang Qingshan's celestial 5 Elements chess had the same effect. So close, yet so far. Although he was standing there, the place where the chessboard was independent of the entire space, beyond the 3 realms and not within the 5 elements. Of course, with Fang Qingshan's current cultivation level and realm, he could not achieve this. But with the advancement of the all-heavens chessboard, with his understanding of the great way of the five elements, and with the improvement of his cultivation level, there would be a day when Fang Qingshan's all-heavens five elements chess could rival Laozi's one-breath Sanqing and the primeval lord of heaven's auspicious cloud golden lantern. Putting these aside for the time being, the all-heavens five-element chess was indeed a big move that Fang Qingshan had been holding back. It was indeed extraordinary. But when the storm came, engulfing the four seas, swallowing the eight wastelands, and sweeping the heavens, Fang Qingshan stood aloof from the world, floating like an immortal, completely unaffected. All the earth, wind, water, and fire seeped through the gaps between the chessboard, shifted, and banished to an unknown void. Whoosh! Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan could not help but heave a sigh of relief. After all, this was a mystical ability that he had developed himself. It was his first time using it, and he was facing the chaos storm. It was inevitable that he would be on tenterhooks, but it did not let him down. Since that was the case, Fang Qingshan could continue boldly with confidence. Open. With the all-heavens sword in hand, Fang Qingshan once again slashed at the chaos storm in front of him. Millions of sword lights surged like a surging tide, pouring out unstoppably like the wheel of fate rolling forward. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 10 strikes, 30 strikes. Fang Qingshan slashed out 81 times in one breath, secretly matching the number of perfect unification. Finally, a space took shape. However, this space was just space. Only the spatial laws existed, and it was not very stable. Because the surrounding chaos storm raged, the earth, wind, water, and fire wreak havoc. It seemed like the space that had just been opened would turn back into chaos in the next moment. Go! Of course, Fang Qingshan would not allow such a thing to happen. Sitting cross-legged on the cloud bed, his essence spirit immediately pointed at the world tree beside him. The world tree flew out and landed in the center of the space. It swelled with the wind, and in an instant, it turned into a towering tree. The world tree had the effect of supporting a world and stabilizing it. It was just right to use it here. Although the world tree was still very weak, this world had just been opened. The two sides were about the same and complemented each other. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.